year history of the team. Harold Carmichael comes into this one having caught 474 passes in his brilliant career. And Ron Jaworski has thrown 86 touchdowns and has led the Eagles into the playoffs and Super Bowl last year. Here come the Eagles with a brilliant defense against the Minnesota Vikings. It should be a dandy.
CBS Sports presents the National Football League. Today, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings.
It's windbreaker time in Minnesota. The temperature is 42 degrees. The wind out of the northwest carrying a small knife with it at 32 miles per hour. And they tell me it'll gust up to 45 before this day is through. And just to complicate matters, there's a 20% chance of snow flurries today. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully. Along with Hank Stram, let us first be the both to wish you a very Merry Christmas. It looks like it's going to be that kind of a day.
Yeah, if it snows, it's going to look exactly like that, right?
Hank, talking about the wind, if you were going to win the toss today, would you always elect to receive and get the ball?
No, in a game like this one, I definitely would take the wind. And I think the field position and turnovers will make the difference in this game this afternoon.
You have two great quarterbacks, Ron Jaworski and Tommy Kramer, but what's the difference in the offensive philosophy of the team?
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles, they run the ball so they can pass it. And on the other side of the football, the Minnesota Vikings, they throw the ball so they can run it. They average 45 passes a game, 29 runs, have the ball for 72 snaps a game compared to 61 for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles must maintain good ball control here this afternoon. They must keep the ball away from the Minnesota Vikings if they hope to do a good job like they have the last 6 weeks.
Meanwhile, down on the field, the barefoot boy, Tony Franklin, ready to tee it up on the 35-yard line as Minnesota has won the toss, and they will elect to receive, and they will be playing with the wind. Eddie Payton, who has had a sore knee but says he's okay, and Payton is the deep man for Minnesota, and you can see his numbers, his longest 99. A quick comment, Coach. If you had Franklin, would you let him kick barefoot in this kind of weather?
Well, it isn't so bad right now, Ben, but I think somewhere along the line when you play in Philadelphia, the weather's going to be so bad that it would be much better for him to get in the habit of kicking with a shoe on rather than kicking barefooted and maybe impair the efficiency of his kicking ability when the weather is bad.
Well, Franklin, with the wind blowing the ball off the tee, has had marvelous kicking efficiency this year. He has kicked 63 consecutive points after touchdown, although he's having more trouble right now, and he'll use a holder. And coming over is Roynell Young to hold the ball on the 35. So in a minute, we'll get this one underway. It is a short kick, and Mardine McDowell takes it at the 19, and McDowell is out across the 35 to about the 37 or 38-yard line. Let's take a look now at Minnesota offensively. Tommy Kramer, the quarterback. Ted Brown and Ricky Young are the running backs. Ahmad Rashad and Sammy White, the wide receivers. The tight end, Joe Sensor, having a big year. And up front, Riley, Huff, Swilly, Hamilton, and Yeri. Ron Yeri, 14 years in the league, the senior member of that group up front. So the Vikings, 4-2, will put it in play, 1st and 10 on their own 38. And Tommy Kramer ready to put this aerial show on the road. Sensor backs off in a wingback position and now goes in motion. And they'll stay on the ground, and the ball is dropped. Ted Brown picks it up, however, and he's going to be boxed in and dropped. Harrison drops him back at the 25-yard line. Hank, why is it after a whole week of a sophisticated game plan, you wind up with what looked like a relatively simple play, and they botch it up?
Well, I think basically what teams like to do in the very first play of the game, they want to get ahead on everybody, block 7-on-7, just to get the butterflies from flying around inside, and they get that out of their system, and then they're ready to execute the plan that they went into the game with. But basically, I think that's why they do what they do in the first play.
So it is 2nd and 23 for the Vikings. The ball on the Viking 25-yard line. Kramer looking over the middle, and he's got Brown, who drops it. Well, that's a rather demoralizing beginning for Ted Brown to fumble a pitch out and drop a pass.
And evidently the concentration level isn't what it should be, because you shouldn't drop two balls that were right in your hands like Brown did on the last two occasions.
I see Tommy Kramer blowing on his hand, so the 40-degree weather means it's a little cool on the field. Grant apparently does not believe in allowing his receivers to wear gloves.
Well, I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that if a golfer has to take off a glove to putt with it, the sensitivity level must be very high.
3rd and 23 from the Viking 25. Kramer needs a big play here, and he has time, and it is dropped there. Ahmad Rashad, coming over from the left side, appeared to have the catch and let it get away. Herman Edwards was defending.
Yeah, that ball was thrown right on the money. Rashad going downfield. Edwards has him in a bump and run situation and playing man for man all over the field. The ball is thrown perfectly, but he just frankly drops the football. That's all there is to it.
So now Greg Coleman, who has had some very impressive numbers this year. He had a 50-yard punting average against Detroit, and his longest 73 yard. That's Wally Henry, who's the deep man for the Eagles, standing back on the Eagle 38-yard line. So Coleman trying to get it off from the Viking 15, and we'll watch the snap. Jim Huff gets it back to him, and the punt is away, and into the wind. It'll make Henry backtrack to the 20, and now all the way to the 18-yard line. And there he goes, and finally bumped by Huff along with Studwell as Seaman went flying by after he crossed the 40-yard line. So the Eagles on a good return. Wally Henry having to backtrack to the 18-yard line and brought it out to the Eagle 41. 1st and 10. Here's the way the Eagles will go with Jaworski, Montgomery, and Oliver, Carmichael and Smith, the wide receivers. Up front, the tight end is Keith Krepley. Then you have Walters, Payroll, Morris, Baker, and Sizemore. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 41. We've just broken the seal on this one. No score. Carmichael is left, and Montgomery is on a wing. So Oliver is the setback behind Jaworski, and he's straight ahead across the 45 with Studwell on his back as he dropped him at the 46-yard line. Here's the way Minnesota stacks up defensively. A three-man front, Mulaney, White, and Martin. Then you have Blair, Seaman, Studwell, and McNeil, the four linebackers, with Turner starting instead of Walt Williams at the left corner, and Willie Teal, Kurt Knopf, and Tommy Hannon, the free safety. 2nd and 6 on the Eagle 45. Oliver again, the setback behind Jaworski, and it's a draw to Oliver, and he spins and gets through Matt Blair, and by doing that he comes very close to the first down. If Blair had made his tackle, Oliver could not have picked up the first down. Now they're going to have to measure. So there was a good play by Hubert Oliver, and of course remember that it's been a tough year for running backs for Philadelphia, losing Leroy Harris with a broken arm and then Perry Harrington with a broken leg.
Yes, and Perry Harrington gave them a dimension, I think, that they haven't had for a long time from a running standpoint. He has very quick feet, good speed, and good pass receiver, and they're going to miss him.
Because of the fact that Oliver was able to break the tackle by Matt Blair, the Eagles have picked up the first down on the Viking 49-yard line. So that was a good play by Oliver and a forgettable play for Matt Blair.
The Eagles have excellent balance from the run and the pass standpoint. They've thrown 27 passes, 34 runs, which is a little bit like we used to feel years ago about the balance of the run and the pass. 1st and 10 on the Viking 49, and Wilbert Montgomery trying to get outside, and Fred McNeil drops him just about at the line of scrimmage. Doug Martin had done a pretty good job of containment, allowing McNeil to come up. Hank, that's a question. Suddenly Minnesota with a three-man front, and three-man fronts are popping up all over the NFL. Where did that come from? How long ago? Well, really, you know, the first time I saw it in 1953 when I was at Purdue University playing against Notre Dame, Frank Leahy's great teams. And before that, it was originated really by Bud Wilkinson at Oklahoma.
So it is 2nd and 10 on the Viking 49-yard line. Jaworski Jaworski looking to the right side, and he's got Carmichael, and they box him in as he fights for the first down. John Turner and Matt Blair were there, and it's a question of whether he was able to get the first down before going out of bounds. For Harold Carmichael, 475 passes he's caught now. What a career.
And here's Jaworski going back, setting up rather shallow, throws the ball outside to Carmichael, who fights desperately for the first down, but it looks like he might have just missed it, even though he tried gallantly for the first down.
He missed it by 1, so it's 3rd and 1. The ball is just shy of the Vikings 40-yard line with 11:45 left in the first quarter and no score. Carmichael is going to come left this time, but he's going to be in the slot. Smith wide left with him, and Prefley, the tight end, on the right side. Wilbert Montgomery breaking through across the 35, dropped down about the 32-yard line. Tommy Hannon cut him down underneath, and Montgomery just churned for a couple more. Hank, what is the basic formation that has ruined the four-man line? Is there one formation offensively that scrapped the four-man front?
Yes, I think the I formation has had as much to do with putting a lot of pressure on the 4-3 than any other formation, because it's a great cutback formation, and you had a great opportunity to get the middle linebacker going one way and cut back behind him.
1st and 10 on the Viking 32-yard line. This started on the Eagle 41. The deep man is Montgomery. And they're going to go to Montgomery. He was slowed down by Duck White. And Duck White finally got some help, and Montgomery is dropped at the 35. But it was a good play by James White, the 6-year veteran they called Duck out of Oklahoma State. And Mark Mullaney will get credit for the tackle, but it was the Duck who got him.
Yes, he got good penetration that time, and that's the one thing you do not want on this kind of a play. And you see James White, number 72, getting the penetration. There's a leak in the defensive line from an offensive standpoint of Philadelphia, and there's a loss on the play.
Go to 2nd and 13 on the Viking 35-yard line. Matt Blair hollering to pick up the wide receiver on the right side. Jaworski looking that way, has time to go down the middle, and Carmichael can't hold on to it. The ball was thrown very hard.
You know what happened that time, Ben? Normally on a double wing formation where the wingback is on the outside, he is on the right side, outside of the tight end. That time they had Montgomery on the split inside wide. They didn't recognize it, and it looked like Keystone Cops back there trying to decide where he was supposed to be covered by.
Matt Blair almost jumped out of his uniform on the far left side, leaping and screaming like a kid in grammar school trying to get the teacher's attention. So it's 3rd and 13. The ball on the Viking 35-yard line. Walt Williams is now in there. He didn't start, but he's back in there at a corner. And he's on the left side picking up Smith. So out of the shotgun is Jaworski on this 3rd and 13. And with time and protection, there's nobody there. Rodney Parker was trying to cut the short man as Smith was going deep.
Yeah, Matt Blair was blitzing on the play, and he had to throw the ball before he was actually ready. There was no follow-through on the part of Jaworski, and that's why the ball sailed like it did over the top and falls incomplete. A good-looking play there by Matt Blair, the linebacker.
So this will be the 9th play for the Eagles on this abortive drive. They started on their own 41-yard line. And Tony Franklin coming in. Franklin is 11 for 15 in field goals. His longest is 47 yards, and twice he has kicked him 46 yards. Jaworski will be the holder, and the hold will be at the 43. So you're looking at a 53-yard field goal. Of course, when he was in college, Franklin has kicked them over 60 yards. So let's see about this one. The hold, instead, it's a punt. And Franklin punting and kicks it out of bounds around the 20-yard line, the 21-yard line. What about that one?
Well, that's a pretty good gimmick, because he has the ability to punt, and he gets everybody up on the line of scrimmage, and if you get the punt beyond everybody, it's going to roll, and you get a good situation as far as field goal position is concerned. Field position, I said.
And he couldn't kick the ball into that 40-mile-an-hour wind.
There's a timeout on the field.
You're looking at Bud Grant, the great coach of the Minnesota Vikings, who at one time was drafted and played for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a first-round draft choice by the Eagles in 1950, and he was the number 2 receiver in the league in 1952.
And the other thing about Bud, he was a great basketball player, too, you know.
Yeah, the Lakers drafted him. All right, 1st and 10 for Minnesota. The ball is spotted on the Viking 22-yard line. It'll be the second time they had the ball. The first time they got it, they lost 13 yards. Cleveland leading New Orleans 3-0 in the first quarter. Now let's see what Tommy Kramer does. Sensor backs off into a wing on the right side and now is in motion. Kramer looking to the left side to Ahmad Rashad, and Herman Edwards bumps him out of bounds at the 27-yard line. So Rashad making another reception, and what a career he's had. Ahmad Rashad has caught at least one pass now in 68 consecutive games. Let's take a look at Philadelphia defensively. The big three: Dennis Harrison, Charlie Johnson, and Carl Hairston up front. The four linebackers: Wilkes, Chesley, LeMaster, and Robinson, with Wilkes playing for Bunting. Roynell Young along with Edwards, Logan, and Wilson in the backfield. So a pickup of 6 on the pass. That makes it 2nd and 4 from the 28. And it's Ted Brown fighting his way to the 30-yard line. He picked up 2, and that'll make it a 3rd and 2. You know, you always scout the other team, Hank. Do you ever scout yourself because you might fall into a trap?
Yes, I think it's very important that you scout yourself. We did that every week. We wanted to make sure we knew what we did so we could anticipate what the opposition felt we might do. And for that reason, it's a very, very important part of the planning and the direction of a professional football team. And the same is true in college at all levels of competition.
Well, it's 3rd and a long one now from the 30-yard line. Sensor and Bob Brewer, another tight end on the left side, and out of the eye with Brown the deep back, and it's Brown battling for the first down. It's just a matter now of where they spot it. It was very close.
You talk about a team coming off the bus throwing a football. The Vikings throw the ball, have averaged 45 passes a game in the 6 games they have played so far.
One of the things they tell me about Tommy Kramer, he is a coach's delight because he has a marvelous ability to read defenses. As you see, the St. Louis leading Atlanta 7-0 in the first quarter.
Yes, he's got great vision, tremendous confidence, and he's got great confidence in his own ability. But what's also very important, he's a great leader, and the team believes in him very strongly.
One thing a lot of us should keep in mind about Kramer, in his, I think, 39 victories as the Viking quarterback, he has had 8 victories in the last 2 minutes. So he is one of the better 2-minute quarterbacks around. Shades of, let's say, Roger Staubach.
Yes, that's true. And shades of the great Johnny Unitas and the great players that played several years ago.
1st and 10 on the Viking 32-yard line as the Vikes pick up their first down of the day. Kramer getting some protection. He's got Brown, and he stumbles and falls to the 41-yard line. So they picked up about 9 on that play. Chesley and LeMaster made sure he didn't get up and try to continue.
But they use the forward pass as a possession kind of an offensive scheme. They don't try to throw the ball very deep. They look in the cracks and the seams of the zone. There you see Brown, number 23, in the crack between the linebackers and the defensive backs. He makes the reception, and a beautiful looking play, and it popped open just like a flower in the spring.
2nd and 1 on the 41-yard line, and Tommy Kramer now on a roll as he hits one of his favorite receivers, Ted Brown, coming out of the backfield. This time it's Ricky Young running into the crowd, but he might have a first down. You know, when he throws to Ted Brown, remember, Brown last week caught 5 for 109 yards. So he's an extra weapon at the other end of those passes.
Yes, and going into the game, he's caught 33 passes, and the balance between the backs are excellent. Ricky Young came into the game with 27 receptions.
Yeah, he's averaged 3 reception a game this year. So they got a lot of weapons up here. One reason why the Vikings coming on strong are 4-2 and figure to be a sizable threat against the Eagles' perfect record. 1st and 10 on the 43-yard line. Terry LeCount is now in there, a wide receiver on the right side. But Ted Brown looking for a hole, and they butt heads and drop him right about at the 45-yard line. Chesley, Hairston, Johnson, among others.
They tried to run a trap that time with the right guard pulling Hamilton, but they didn't succeed in doing a very good job on the play, and you have to give the Philadelphia Eagles an awful lot of credit. They did an excellent job of reacting.
George Rogers just busted 79 yards for a touchdown to put New Orleans out in front over Cleveland 7-3. 79. It is 2nd and 8 for the Vikes on the Viking 45-yard line. It started on their own 22. LeCount is left, and they go slot right with White inside Rashad. Kramer going to release it to Brown, and he's off to the races, chased by Robinson and Herman Edwards, and he picked up the first down as they bump him out of bounds at the Eagle 45. Well, we're going to see a lot of that number today. 23, Ted Brown.
Yes, and they tease you. They tease you with a forward pass. They look like they're going to get the ball downfield. They wait for everybody to drop off, and then they dunk the ball out in the flat. That time to Ted Brown, who makes the reception, scampers down the sideline, and is finally knocked out of bounds, but not until after he made the necessary yardage for the first down.
They spotted at the Eagle 44-yard line. So the second first down for the Vikings on this drive that started on their own 22.
Look at all the room on the outside here, Benny.
Sammy White coming wide to the right side, but out of the eye, they go to Ted Brown, and he's upended and falls to about the 42-yard line. You know, Minnesota had won all 7 meetings between these teams until last year when they lost during the regular season and again the playoffs. And there was one trend in those 2 games, Hank. Minnesota was just blown out in the second half of each game.
Yes, I think, you know, going into the championship game last year, or the playoff game, they went into the game only losing 3 fumbles for the whole year. And in the second half of the game, they lost 3 in the second half, and it really killed them. But you have to give Philadelphia an awful lot of credit. They played extremely well.
2nd and 8 on the Eagle 42-yard line. Rashad is left, and in motion is Sensor. And Kramer is looking over the middle, and he has got Ricky Young coming out of the backfield to the 39-yard line, but he has a considerable distance for a first down. For a report, let's go to Brent Musburger in the NFL Today in New York.
Benny, it's early, but New Orleans has struck against Cleveland. Watch George Rogers behind a fine block by Jack Holmes. And the Heisman Trophy winner from South Carolina will run 79 yards. And the Saints now lead the Browns 7-3. But again, it's early. Let's go back now to Vin Scully and Hank Stram in Bloomington.
Okay, Brent, we're just warming up here. It's 3rd and 5 on the Eagle 39-yard line for Minnesota. No score. 5 minutes and 5 seconds left in the first quarter. And it's a slot right, Rashad and White. And Terry LeCount is wide left. Everybody releasing, so Kramer is on his own, and it's a busted play. So the first whistle, and it looks like a delay of game. Too much time for the Vikings to get that play off.
Yeah, a hard time spitting that play out, I guess, Ben. It took too much time, and they're going to be penalized 5 yards for that infraction.
You know, Hank, when we were in the lobby this morning, we saw Eddie Payton, and we also saw Tony
Number
Galbraith.
9, delayed. 3rd down.
And it kind of surprises you to see the home team in a hotel.
Well, I think that's a common practice. It used to be the common practice for most teams. We did it all the time at Kansas City and New Orleans. Kept the squad at a hotel before the game, but I'm not so sure now that everybody feels that's the best thing to do. Some teams, like Dallas, for example, let them stay at home.
3rd and 10 on the Eagle 44-yard line. And all the backs release, and Kramer again all alone to the left side. No good. Intended for Terry LeCount. And a great play by the veteran Herman Edwards coming up from the right side to knock it down. Edwards has been in the league 5 years out of San Diego State.
Kramer's pass intended.
Carl Hairston, number 78, really did a super job. He had a stunt there, gets good pressure coming into the inside, and he makes Kramer throw the ball before he actually wants to. And for that reason, he didn't have much on it, and it didn't get to the receiver in time.
Greg Coleman, who had that 50-yard average against Detroit and also had a 48-yard average against San Diego last week. And remember, he's punting with the help of a 40-mile-an-hour wind. The deep man is Wally Henry on the Eagle 10. And it is partially blocked by the Eagles, and it was Phillips who got his hands on the ball, and it is finally recovered at the 40-yard line. And Ray Phillips is hurt and shaken up, number 52. But it was Phillips who broke through. And so Coleman has his punt blocked, and the Eagles get great field position. And let's take another look at that one.
This doesn't happen very often to the Minnesota Vikings. Normally, they're the ones who block kicks and do a great job in that category. But Ray Phillips, number 52, watch him, comes across there. Looked like the kicker was slow. He got up there in good shape and blocked the kick. And really, it looked like Craig Coleman took a little too long to get rid of that ball.
No score with 4:40 to go in the first quarter. Ray Phillips, the 5-year man, shaken up on the play, goes to the sidelines. The Eagles in good position. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 41-yard line. Jaworski to Montgomery. And Montgomery grabbed from behind by Martin and is dropped as he crossed the 45-yard line. So a pickup of 4 or 5 on that play.
In the offensive right guard, Ron Baker, 63, Sizemore, 76, and Guy Morris, the offensive center, all three of whom did an excellent job of moving people off the line of scrimmage and getting a good jump on that surge by the ball carrier that time.
You know, when you look at the Minnesota up front and Doug Martin shaken up, he'll have to leave. He's the brother of George Martin of the New York Giants. You might remember that in a combination with Matt Blair, they had a safety against Philadelphia in the playoff when they tackled Ron Jaworski in the end zone.
And they like Martin very, very much, and that's one of the reasons they feel their 3-4 defense is going to be much more efficient this year.
2nd and 6 from the 45-yard line for Jaworski. No score. A little more than 4 minutes left in the first quarter. The pass to Carmichael. John Turner has him by the waist, spins him and drops him at around midfield, and he has to get to the 49-yard line for the first down. So it's going to be very close.
This is a very high percentage pass. Then they're putting Carmichael in the slot on the left side, and all he does is go downfield a little bit, break to the outside, and licks the safety man, number 27, John Turner, on the play.
For John Turner, this is his first game. He hurt his ankle in a preseason game, so he's really gotten some tough exposure first time out of the barrel to try and handle Carmichael. So it is 3rd and 1 from midfield. Second man, Wilbert Montgomery, and he's across the 40. Willie Teal on his head as he goes down at about the 39. At the bottom was Fred McNeil.
Here again, we just got through talking about the good job of the offensive lineman, and there's another good surge by the offensive line, and Montgomery sees the crack, sees the cavity, pops through there in good shape, and makes the necessary yardage for the first time. Willie Teal, 37, is in on the tackle.
You know, last year Montgomery had just one 100-yard game. It was against Minnesota. He went for 169. 1st and 10 on the Viking 39-yard line. And Montgomery going back on a flea flicker, and Jaworski going deep down the middle to Carmichael. Carmichael at the 5, and Carmichael at the plane of the goal line. We haven't seen any touchdown signal yet. But the little flea flicker got the big man loose.
A little recess football, Vinny. That's fun
right
to see, isn't it? That's great. The old flea flicker play, and Carmichael ran right between the two defensive backs, and it looked like maybe they would react to the thrown ball once it was up in the air, but they didn't get there in time. Plenty of time to throw the ball. Jaworski gets it right on the money. Carmichael right between the two defensive backs, 45, Hannon and Turner, number 27.
So it is 1st and goal for the Eagles on the Viking 1-yard line. After that 49-yard pass to Carmichael, Montgomery hitting, and Montgomery for the touchdown. So Wilbert Montgomery barely breaking the plane, but he did for his 2nd rushing touchdown of the year, and it is 6-0 Eagles.
The Eagles have a lot of confidence in the right side of their line. They do the left side too, of course, but I think in critical situations, they like to run right. Ron Baker, Sizemore, and Kreftley that time all do a good job of blowing people off the ball and providing running room for Wilbert Montgomery, number 31.
So now the barefoot boy, Tony Franklin, who has kicked 14 out of 14 this year and 63 consecutively, will try to make it 64. And it is blocked, a typical Minnesota trick. And it looked like Matt Blair, and that would be the 3rd kick that Blair has blocked this year. He's incredible.
They are something. We watched them practice yesterday, and they spent a lot of time blocking kicks, but it paid off this afternoon.
Blair and Joe Sensor stopping Tony Franklin at 63 consecutively. That's the 4th block kick for the Vikings this year. 3 by Blair, the other by Robin Sendline. However, the Eagles are leading 6-0 with 1:55 left to go in the first quarter. Eddie Payton going into the end zone, lost it, and lets it wisely go on through. You see Payton shying away from the ball at the last moment, and it goes into the end zone and through. So Minnesota will put it in play, trailing 6-0. 1st and 10 on the Viking 20-yard line with 1:49 in the quarter.
You know, Philadelphia has to feel good to be able to score the first quarter going into that strong wind. They have to feel good about that.
You know, one thing for Philadelphia, it figures that Jaworski's going to have a lot of time today because Minnesota is not a sacking ball club. They have 10 sacks, but they got 8 of them a couple of weeks ago in a Green Bay game.
Yes, that's true, and they use a 4-man line on obvious passing situations, but they really haven't penetrated very well so far this season.
Oh, we'll see what Kramer does now. 1st and 10 from the Viking 20-yard line, and he's going to give it to Brown, who got by Hairston, trying to get inside and finally spun outside. Randy Logan spins him out. So it's 6-0 here, Eagles, and let's go back to Brent Musburger in the NFL Today in the Big Apple.
Vinny, the Cleveland Browns responded to Rodgers' long touchdown run with this drive. Mike Pruitt went in from the 8, and now the Browns lead the Saints 10-7. And let's go back to Vinny in Bloomington.
Okay, Brad, it's 2nd and 7 on the Viking 23-yard line. 1 minute and 48 seconds left in the first quarter. 6-0 Eagles. Sammy White comes wide right. Ahmad Rashad goes wide left, and the running backs remain Brown and Young. Kramer looking over the middle and dumps it and couldn't get his man. I think it was intended for Ricky Young, and Young just couldn't get off. They tied him up pretty well.
Yes, that time the umpire did a good job of playing pass defense that time. And Ralph Moorcroft, number 15, I think was the umpire who kept him from making a play on the ball that time.
Yeah, he was crouching, trying to get under a possible pass to Ted Brown, and here comes Young.
And he was in a good stance, too. He was down a good position to make the play.
You know, that's really a tough job to be caught out there with everybody running around you.
Yes, it's dangerous, too.
Yeah,
very dangerous.
3rd and 6 on the 24 for the Vikes. Terry LeConte goes left, and the Vikings are in a slot right. Kramer looking left, and under heat, dumps it to Brown, and Brown is going to be dumped by Bernard Wilson inside the 15-yard line. So that looked like somewhat of a busted play as the Eagles really came in a hurry.
Yeah, it looked like a screen pass the way the defense got in there that time. He didn't have much of a chance. There's a stunt with the right end Carl Hairston coming in, putting pressure right in his face. He dumped the ball off to number 23, Ted Brown, but no chance to succeed on the play.
So it is 4th and 15 from the 15. Greg Coleman, you remember, had his punt blocked by Ray Phillips. Now he's been trying to boot it with Wally Henry standing at the 49-yard line of Philadelphia. Coleman kicking with the wind. His fullback is Jeff Seaman, and he got it away despite the rush from Greg Brown. Penalty on the play, and Wally Henry making the return anyway, and he's going to get away from some purple, but not all of it. However, down on the field is Greg Coleman, and Coleman really was drilled that time by number 98, Greg Brown, to knock Coleman goofy.
Yeah, he really did. He got a good shot at him. Greg Brown, number 98.
Brown is a rookie out of Kansas State, 235 pounds, but he's 6'5", and he caught that right leg and dumped him.
Yeah, that really smarts. He had no chance that time whatsoever, even to try to break the
98.
fall. He lit right on his backside.
Running into the kicker. First down.
How do you teach a man to block a kick? Because that looked like it was certainly accidental. It was a case of the kicker's foot tying you up after the ball was in flight.
You know what we did in practice? We put a big mat down in front of the kicker and had the people rush in front. You have to rush about 1.5 yards in front of the anticipated spot of the release by the kicker so that you don't run into the kicker and get a piece of his foot.
So it's 1st and 10 on the Viking 20-yard line. And the second man is Ted Brown, but they stack him up as he gets out across the 20, maybe 1 yard or 2, but that's about all. So the Vikings not having much luck on the ground at all. So far, Young carried once for 2 yards. Brown has carried 7 times for a -1. So that tells you a lot about the Eagle defense, Hank. The Vikings just can't move the football.
Yeah, it's hard for them to run the football, and you know, I'm surprised they've tried to run the ball quite a bit on 1st and 10 situations, and I think they're going to have to change that mode of operation and try to throw the ball more on 1st and 10 rather than try to run it.
Well, the first quarter has become history here at Bloomington, Minnesota. The Eagles on a flea flicker to Carmichael, and then Montgomery scored from 1 yard out.
Instead of moving down to get better mileage, maybe you should move up.
That's not only the score, it's the Eagle record. I imagine the Eagle record is an inspiration to Minnesota, but it's also an inspiration for Philadelphia to keep it alive.
Yeah, they've reached a level of excellence. I'm talking about Philadelphia, where they're taking a lot of pride in what they've achieved and what they've accomplished. And really, at this stage of the season, you'd have to say they're the best team in the National Football League because they are undefeated, plus the fact that they're the best balanced team, I think, we have seen so far as the run, the pass, the kicking, and also the defense.
2nd and 8 on the Viking 22, 6-0 in favor of the Eagles. Tommy Kramer with Ted Brown, the sole setback, and the Vikes in the slot left. Kramer releasing to Brown at the 25, chased by Wilkes, and he beats Wilkes to the 50, still on his feet and going down inside the Eagle 40-yard line. There's that man Brown again.
It's like fast break football, Ben. He dunks the ball off to Brown.
Able to beat Wilkes, I guess, was the big play.
Well, that's the matchup they want. They try to get it back on a linebacker in the open field. There you see Wilkes not being able to make the play, and that's a tough responsibility for the linebacker. Brown just breaks it clean to the outside, makes a beautiful run, and they have great field position.
And if Randy Logan doesn't get him from behind, he's going to pick up another 5 to 10. So it is 1st and 10 on the Eagle 40-yard line, with the Eagles leading 6-0, and Kramer now trying to get his ball club going. Play action fake, and Kramer down the left side to Joe Sensor. And Sensor is down inside the 20-yard line, and the Vikings are on a roll.
And, you know, you talk about concentration. That ball was tipped that time. Joe Sensor, in spite of the tip, maintained good concentration, watched it all the way into his hands. It's a play action fake, faking a draw to Young. He gets rid of the ball nicely. Watch it now. It's deflected here and bounces into the hands of Joe Sensor, and they have another big 1st down.
Sensor is a kid from Philadelphia who went to school at Westchester State, and he's a marvelous tight end. So 1st and 10 on the Eagle 19-yard line. White goes left, Rashad goes right, and in motion is Ricky Young to the right. The back's release, dump off to Ted Brown, but he is belted, and the guy who hit him is Al Chesley, number 59, 3 years out of Pittsburgh. They used to call him the Bill Berge stuntman, Hank.
You know, that time they had Ricky Young in motion to the right, and one of the few times Tommy Kramer threw the ball to the wrong guy. The halfback, Ricky Young, was really open on the right sideline. Had he thrown the ball to him, he'd have gone in for a big gain, but instead he threw it to Brown.
So it is 2nd and 9 as you see the Viking. 2nd and 9 on the Eagle 18-yard line. 12:45, so we're just starting and warming up in the 2nd quarter. Kramer with Young staying in to block, passing to Brown, and Brown is dropped at about the 11 or 12-yard line. He'll have to get to just about the 9. Jerry Robinson finally bringing him down.
Another very high possession, high percentage pass, throws out to the flat to Brown, who is matched up against the linebacker. There you see him on Wilkes, number 51. He makes the reception again, and it's close to a 1st down.
He's already caught a half a dozen balls, and we're just really getting into this thing. Ted Brown.
That's a lot to catch at a pregame warm-up.
Wow. So White and Rashad come out. They bring in the Beef Trust on a 3rd and 2 from the 11-yard line. You have Bob Brewer, the tight end, on the right side. Joe Sensor on the left. Young and Brown, the running backs, and Sensor in motion. And they're going to go that way on a roll. Kramer now going over the middle. Touchdown to Joe Sensor, the tight end.
Joe Sensor really did a super job of cruising away from the flow of the play, Ben. The play was designed to go for the right corner. Everybody ran to the outside. He stopped and came back against the grain. Kramer, the communication between the quarterback and the tight end was really excellent. He gets the ball back to the backside. Watch him. Rolls right, and then he spots Sensor cruising back away from the flow. Touchdown, Minnesota.
So that's the 4th touchdown for Joe Sensor. When he went in motion, that put both tight ends on the right side, and you thought they were going to muscle it around the corner, but they went to the air, and it's 6-6. Now let's see about Rick Danmeyer. He is 13 out of 15. The kick, the hold, it is good. And the Minnesota Vikings are leading the Philadelphia Eagles 7-6 with 11 minutes and 42 seconds left to go in the 2nd quarter. Here's another look at the catch by Joe Sensor that helped Minnesota catch up and then go on to take the 1-point lead. And we're just warming up. Rick Danmeyer ready to kick off. It is 7-6 Minnesota, 11:42. Wally Henry, the deep man, Giamona on his right, Canfield on his left, and coming to his right is Henry from the 4 to the 15, 25. Still on his feet, and John Willie Teal finally brings him down at the 38-yard line after a hit by Randy Holloway. Teal from LSU brings Wally Henry down. Of course, Wally Henry will always remember here. He suffered a broken leg here. He also had a spleen removed. That kid has really taken a beating, Hank.
Yes, and he's come back like gangbusters and really does a super job on the specialty teams.
So it is 1st and 10 for the Eagles on the Eagle 38-yard line. This is Vin Scully along with Hank Stram welcoming you to Bloomington, Minnesota, shaping up to be a dandy. Jaworski with Carmichael inside Montgomery. So Wilbert Montgomery, a wide receiver, and they go to Hubert Oliver, and he hits at the 40 and then powers forward for a couple more, and they're going to spot the ball at the 43. St. Louis leading Atlanta 7-0 in the second quarter. Green Bay leading San Francisco 3-0, and of course San Francisco coming off that shocker with Dallas.
It's a roller coaster ride every week, isn't it?
Isn't that something? 2nd and 4 on the 44. Out of the eye now with Montgomery, the deep back. And Montgomery turned in by Matt Blair, and Blair has him by the left leg and brings him down. Matt Blair, a one-man gang to turn that in.
You know what happened that time, Vinny? That time Oliver, the fullback, went the wrong way. It looked like he might have changed the play on the line of scrimmage, and Oliver went to the left, Montgomery went to the right. You see, and there's some confusion on the part of Jaworski, wondering where the fullback was, and that's why Blair was free and was able to make that play.
So it is 3rd and 5 on the 43-yard line of Philadelphia. Walt Williams is in there along with Pete Nord. So in a 3rd and 5, the Eagles trying to keep it moving. 7-6 Minnesota, and we have 10 minutes left to the half. Out of the shotgun, the snapper is Guy Morris. Jaworski to the right side, and Rodney Parker makes the reception for the first down and is knocked out of bounds at the 47-yard line. Rodney Parker.
You know, that's amazing. Minnesota's playing with 6 defensive backs. They double cover the outside receiver, and in spite of that, the outside guy is wide open, and he's finally tackled there by Walt Williams. Hard to understand how you can double cover him and still let him make that kind of a play.
Rodney Parker, second-year man out of Tennessee State. He was originally drafted by Atlanta and was picked up as a free agent by the Eagles last year. So 1st and 10 on the Viking 47-yard line. A quick pass, overthrown. Charlie Smith, the intended receiver.
It looked like Mark Mullaney that time got up a little bit and got a tip of the ball, and that's why it sailed incomplete. Looked like it was a badly thrown ball, but it really wasn't. Mullaney got his fingertips on it.
You know, another note, Minnesota's defense has yielded more than 300 yards to opposing passers in each of the past 3 weeks. Dickey and Whitehurst, 303. Vince Evans of the Bears, 307. Dan Fouts, 310. But what's really important, as they say on Broadway, how'd you come out? Minnesota won all 3. 2nd and 10 on the Viking 47. Oliver and Montgomery in a pro set now. Down, and he's throwing in the hands of Duck White. So Duck White has him at the 42-yard line. A big sack for the Minnesota Vikings. As we said, they only had 10 this year, 8 in one game against Green Bay.
The rush and 4 linemen that time, Randy Holloway, Mullaney, White, and Martin. They got good penetration. White, number 72, making the big play on Jaworski and making him throw the ball before he actually wanted to get rid of the football.
Well, the Canadian Geese come down to Wisconsin around this time of year, so it's only right for the Duck from Minnesota to be heard from, James White. So it is 3rd and 20 on the Eagle 43-yard line. Shotgun again. Billy Canfield is in there with Montgomery. Jaworski to Carmichael, dropped at the 49-yard line. John Turner right there to make the tackle.
Carmichael is lined up on the left side, comes across the middle, runs away from the defensive back Turner, makes the catch, and Turner finally makes the play, but far from making the necessary yardage for the first down. They now have to kick.
Yep, it was 4th and 13. Max Runiger had almost a day off last week against New Orleans. He had only one punt. Eddie Payton standing on the 10. And remember, Runiger is kicking with the wind. Standing on the Eagle 30-yard line, moving up to the 35, and he'll be kicking from just about the 40 and almost blocked. And Payton will handle it and let it roll, and it's going to be down at the 11-yard line. It was Henry Johnson, the man who almost blocked the kick. Just missed it for the Vikings.
And he was smart enough, as long as he missed it, not to hit the kicker.
8:19 to the half. Yard line, the Vikes leading 7-6. Kramer with Sammy White in motion to the right. Tommy looking over the middle, throwing deep and just off the fingertips of Ahmad Rashad. And with that, let's pay a visit again to New York and to Brent Musburger for an update on the NFL today.
Ben, we want to show you some defense. E.J. Jr., rookie linebacker for the St. Louis Cardinals out of Alabama. Watch this hit on William Andrews. The Cardinals are playing that kind of a game, and that's why they lead Atlanta 7-0. Let's go back now to Vin Scully.
Okay, Brent, this is supposed to be the black and blue division, but I can see it's rubbed off everywhere else in the NFL. 2nd and 10 on the Viking 12-yard line. Slot left. Rashad and White. And in motion is Sammy White. Kramer looking to the right side. A diving attempt and a drop, apparently. Although maybe they're going to rule it a catch and a fumble. Let's see. The Eagles think it was a catch and a fumble. And that's what they're going to get, I think. Let's see.
They're going to talk about that a little bit before they make that decision, I think, Ben. Let's see what they call here.
Now, remember, his feet have to be on the ground.
Yes, he has to have possession, and both feet have to be on the ground. The officials are talking it over right now. They'll come to a definite decision on it.
From the looks of things, and we can look at the play again, he was diving, was Ricky Young. And in the act of diving, it'd be pretty hard to get both feet on the ground. But let's see.
Yeah, it looked to me like it was an incompleted forward pass, but let's see what they call it.
See, one foot is high in the air, so it's no reception. And let's take a moment to salute the officials. That was a great call. Referee Fred Silva, umpire Ralph Moorcroft, head linesman Frank Glover, line judge Vern Marshall, the back judge Jim Kearney, side judge Merrill Douglas, field judge Don Orr.
You know, the great thing about it is they didn't go with the original reaction. They got together, talked about it, and made the right decision, and that's what it's all about.
So hats off to Fred Silva and company. So 3rd and 12. 3rd and 10 on the Viking 12, and you can see Kramer's numbers. 98 yards and a touchdown. And among others, his primary receiver is Ted Brown, who has caught 6 balls for 57 yards. Cincinnati pounding Pittsburgh 13-0 in the second quarter. 3rd and 10 from the 12. Kramer on a full turn, looking for some help now. Chased by Ken Clark and throws it out of bounds. And Ken Clark chasing Kramer all the way across the field. He's 255 pounds, and he gave him a pretty good lick.
Brown went the wrong way that time, number 23. Look at, he's looking to fake the ball to Brown, and Brown is not there. What happened to you, he says, Ted, and then he has to decide to run to the outside. And he always runs with the idea of throwing a football. He did not run with the idea of running, then he runs with the idea of throwing it, and he got rid of it in time that time.
So it's a 4th and 10 on the 12. Greg Coleman will be kicking from his end zone, and Wally Henry again, the receiver, standing on the 45-yard line of Philadelphia. And remember now, this kick is into the wind, and it's a low line drive that hits on about the 45, rolling back to the Eagle 40, and Wally Henry is knocked down by Keith Nord, the first man to get down there, and kick him out of bounds at about the 36-yard line. So the Vikings get out of a tough spot as Coleman kicks a line drive into the wind. Minnesota high school cheerleaders, why, they're happy getting ready for the real winter. And talking about getting ready, O.J. Anderson has scored twice from a yard out to lead St. Louis 14-0 over Atlanta. First and 10 on the Eagle 37-yard line. Montgomery and Oliver behind Jaworski. Carmichael wide left. Jaworski a lob to Montgomery at the 35, at the 30. Tommy Hannon along with Kurt Knopf knocking him down at about the Viking 28-yard line.
A play action fake that time, and the linebacker who was supposed to cover Montgomery, they fake a trap. The linebacker took the bait of the trap block and was a little late recovering. Studwell, number 55, was covering not well enough, and it's a big play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
So Wilbert Montgomery making his first reception, good for 35 yards. And it is first and 10 on the Viking 28. Out of the eye, Montgomery is the deep back. Smith is left and Carmichael right. And in motion is Wilbert Montgomery. And they're going to set a screen for Montgomery. And he's going to be taken down at the 20-yard line. Studwell and Turner hit him. And the key man on the screen was Sizemore, setting it up on the right side.
You know, that time they sent Montgomery in motion to the right with the idea of making that area a little softer, making the players play a little deeper. And for that reason, he was able to catch the ball in front, have good blocking out in front, as you mentioned, then by Sizemore, and he scampers down the sideline for a big gain on the play.
2nd and 1 on the Viking 19-yard line. We have 6:15 left to the half. Minnesota leading 7-6, and the Eagles on the move. First man, and Oliver slipped, trying to make a cut, and he was dropped at the 20-yard line. Of course, they had some rain here. That's the first sign of any kind of slick footing at all.
Yes, but I'm surprised the field's in such good condition, because there was a lot of rain. They had it covered, of course, but it's in good shape.
You know, just a moment ago, Hank, Montgomery went in motion, and they would have set up a screen. The Eagles are not really a motion ball club, are they?
No, they don't use a motion a lot. They like to anchor people, get a picture of where the defense is going to be, and then use automatics and throw the ball to the right guy depending on coverages. Other teams, of course, like to use a lot of motion to create confusion.
3rd and 1 on the Viking 19-yard line. Out of the eye, Montgomery, the deep man, second man, and he's going to crack it. And Montgomery would appear to have picked up the first down. Were you much of a motion man?
Yes, we like motion because we like to create formations, utilize motion because I thought it would create a moment of indecision. And as long as it doesn't impair your efficiency and you don't make mistakes doing it, why, it can be very, very effective.
So from this angle, it appeared as if Montgomery made the first down, but up here is not important. But now the sign, he did make it.
That's an Eagle first down.
The Eagles started, you remember, on that low line drive punt from Greg Coleman that took a Viking bounce. So the Eagles started on their own 37-yard line, and they have moved it to a 1st and 10 on the Viking 18. Eagles sending in their offensive signals to Ron Jaworski. 1st and 10 on the 18. Carmichael right, Smith left. And now it's Smith in motion. Jaworski looking for Smith and threw him behind. What's the basic philosophy on that play? You have Carmichael on the right side, and you bring your wide receiver from the left to go right. In other words, Carmichael trying to clear out everybody on that side?
Yes, they're very concerned about Carmichael anytime he's lined up, regardless where it might be. And they sent Smith in motion on the outside, which meant that they just created a slot formation and try to get a one-on-one with Smith on a linebacker or a defensive back, and he just threw the ball poorly and threw behind him, and it falls incomplete.
The Eagles with a perfect 6-0 record. The Vikings are 4-2. The Vikings are leading 7-6, 4:49 to the half, and it's 2nd and 10 on the Viking 18-yard line. Oliver, the sole setback. Jaworski alley-oop to Carmichael. No good. Willie Teal was picking up the rear, but Carmichael had him beaten. Teal, by the way, is 5'10", and Carmichael is 6'8".
Yes, that was the kind of a mismatch you want. The only way you can get the right kind of a mismatch is to get a defensive back who was 6'8". But the ball was thrown perfectly, and it looked like Harrell should have made the catch.
Walt Williams the left cornerback for the Vikes, was talking this week about, I'm going to get me a pair of shoes with springs in them and a button on the outside that I can press and make me taller. Williams is 6'1".
Yes, he needs a pogo stick. That's what he needs.
At least. Or a ladder. 3rd and 10 on the Viking 18. The Vikes trying to stiffen now, and Jaworski poking for holes. Out of the shotgun.
Boy, they're all up in a line of scrimmage. Something deep would be a good play.
Jaworski looking deep, and to the right side to Camfield. And Camfield at the 12-yard line made the reception, but that is not enough for a first down. He's got to get to about the 8. So Camfield made the catch.
They were all in bump and run that time, which means that every defensive back was on the line of scrimmage on the receiver, which means that you ought to be able to get something deep if you can lick the one-for-one situation. Camfield licked the linebacker in the flat, and but did not make the necessary yardage.
So it is a 4th and 5 from the 12. Tony Franklin is in to try for the field goal. Franklin is 11 for 15, and his longest 47. Remember, when he came out, we thought it was a field goal, and he punted out of bounds. But this time, with Jaworski holding at the 20, it's a 30-yard field goal with the wind. The Vikes can't get at it, and he thunders it through. So the Eagles are back out in front. We have 3 minutes and 48 seconds left to go in the half, and the score, the Eagles 9 and the Vikings 7. Footnote would be the pass from the Eagle 37 to the Viking 28 to Wilbert Montgomery. That was the key to the drive, and then Tony Franklin's field goal. So Franklin kicking off from the 35. Roynell Young is holding for him. Not a deep kick at all, and it will be taken by Keith Nord to the 25. Still on his feet to the 30, and Nord out to about the 32-yard line. Not a bad return by Keith, and he brought down by Louis Giamono. Green Bay stubbornly holding on to that 3-0 lead over San Francisco in the second quarter. And of course, San Francisco has a problem coming off that crest of enthusiasm, knocking off Dallas. Next Sunday, the Rams, who play Dallas tonight, the Rams will be at San Francisco, and Green Bay will be at Detroit. Check your paper for local listing. That's next Sunday. 1st and 10 on the Viking 32-yard line. It is 9-7 in favor of the Eagles. LeConte goes wide right, and the Vikes in a slot left. The little screen to LeConte trying to help from Yeri, but Yeri had too many Eagles, and Roynell Young dropped him. So a one-man screen, Hank. Ron Yeri is only one against many.
Yes, and of course, the great thing that you like about that kind of a play, you got a one-on-one with the halfback, with the receiver on the defensive back, plus you have Yeri pulling at 265, blocking a defensive back who weighs about 185, so that's a kind of a mismatch you like.
Is that really the proper terminology to call it a screen when you only have one man out in front?
Well, as long as you have 1 or 2 or 3, it's always regarded. You call one a quick screen, another one a regular screen.
2nd and 5 on the Viking 37-yard line. Rashad goes right, and Kramer is looking down the middle and releasing to Sensor. And the tight end is upended at the 45-yard line. They pick up the first down. Chesley and LeMaster hitting him.
I tell you, Sensor's cute at that tight end position. By that I mean he does a lot of unusual things. He's a good actor. He lets the linebackers get the drop, and then all of a sudden there he comes off the line of scrimmage. He's wide open and picks up a nice gain on the play.
So that's the 3rd reception for Sensor. He's now gained 44 yards, and it's a 1st and 10 for Bud Grant's Vikings at the Viking 45-yard line. Kramer is 12 for 19 for 111 yards and 1 touchdown. Both backs release over the middle to Ted Brown, and he's grabbed by LeMaster immediately and actually made the reception at midfield and might have backed off a yard. For Brown, 7 receptions for the back coming out.
And here again, they try to get that mismatch between the back and the linebacker, number 23. He sees the soft spot, he anchors, and there you see 56, Jerry Robinson, coming in along with LeMaster to come in and make the play, but he still makes 4 or 5 yards on the play.
2nd and 5 at midfield, and Kramer calling the play in the Viking huddle. We have 2 minutes and 14 seconds to the half, and it is 9-7 Eagles. White goes left, Rashad goes right, Brown is the sole setback. Kramer looking right and throwing too much for Rashad to catch up to it. at about the 40-yard line.
Kramer's pass
That time he hurried himself a little bit too much that time. Talking about Tommy Kramer, he saw the outside move, tried to get it there too quickly, and was not in a good enough position to deliver the ball, and it goes over the top and falls incomplete.
You know, it's amazing, and looking at Kramer, you realize that he has passed and broken Tarkenton's record for yardage over 3,500. He threw 61 passes in a game, and in another game he completed 38.
You know, the amazing thing about it is he's thrown a ball 45 times a game and has only had 8 interceptions.
So 3rd and 5 from midfield. Kramer getting a little heat, going deep, and he's got White to the 10, to the 5, touchdown. He beat Logan and Young.
Did you see the way Kramer released the football? He's got terrific vision, great eyes. He was falling back that time and saw White pop open, deliver the ball. It looked like it was a ruptured duck that time, but it got there in good shape, and he goes all the way for the touchdown. He got hit right about the time he threw the ball, but boy, he threw it right on the money to Sammy White for the touchdown.
A
Beautiful play.
50-yard touchdown pass from Kramer to White for Sammy White. In checking his numbers, that would be his first touchdown. Rick Danmeyer with the Vikings leading 13-9. Danmeyer trying to make it 14. He has kicked 14 out of 16 this year. You know, Danmeyer's only missed 1 field goal this year, and that was because of a high snap against Green Bay. So he's really kicking well. How did you try out a kicker?
Well, anytime we had one come into camp, the one thing I always wanted to do personally, I wanted to hold for the kicker.
You held the ball.
I like to hold for the kicker because I wanted to get a feel for the point of impact and the explosion that took place when he made contact. And Jan Stenerud, you know, one of the great kickers in the National Football League, we made sure that throughout the week, sometime during the day, that I would hold the kicks for him in practice because I thought it was very important.
That's why you shake hands left-handed. Huh?
Yeah,
that's a tough way, a risky way for you to try out kickers.
That's why my index finger looks like it does.
Well, it is 13-9 Vikings. We have 1:54 to the half. The officials
We're just trying to keep
checking
warm.
it with 2 minutes left to the half. And Danmeyer loosening up, ready to try and make it 14-9 Vikings. So on passes to Sensor and to White, it is 13-9 Vikes, and here's Danmeyer, 4 years out of Sioux Falls. The hold by Nord and the kick right down the pipe. So with 1 minute and 54 seconds to the half, the Vikings 14, the Eagles 9, and here's that 50-yard beauty from Tommy Kramer to Sammy White.
Watch Kramer deliver the ball this time, and he gets hit right about the time he got rid of the ball. Throws it right over the top beautifully to Sammy White, who makes the catch and goes into the end zone and changes the scoreboard.
Minnesota's second touchdown of the day. They have a 14-9 lead over the undefeated Eagles. We have 1 minute and 54 seconds to the half. Rick Danmeyer ready to kick to Wally Henry. And Henry will make the reception at about the 2, maybe the 3-yard line. And he is hit and dropped by Holloway and Dennis Johnson. And now we'll go to New York for Brent Musburger in the NFL Today.
Benny, while Tommy Kramer was striking, Steve Bartkowski was pulling out for the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons trailing the St. Louis Cardinals by 2 touchdowns, 14-0. Alfred Jenkins broke free, 23-yard. 13th touchdown pass of the season for Bartkowski. They're back in it. Let's go back now to Vin Scully.
So other people can pass the football as well. Boy, that's the show here. Jaworski versus Kramer. 1st and 10, 1:49 to the half on the Eagle 21-yard line. Mulaney trying to get at him, and they're going to set up a screen, and it is Billy Camfield at the 25, brought down at the last minute by Kurt Knopf, just as he crossed the 25-yard line. Knopf, the 6-year man out of Kansas. So Billy Camfield, 4 years from Kansas. He's a hard worker. So the 2 kids from the same school met that time, an alumni meeting.
Yeah, you know, and Jaworski has only had 5 interceptions so far this season, which means that he's reading his keys properly, and when you read keys properly, you don't throw interceptions.
And he's going over to the locksmith, Dick Vermeil.
Yes.
Favorites, Elroy Crazy Leg Hurts. If they had him, Wisconsin would have won yesterday instead of having him as the director of athletics. 2nd and 3 on the Eagle 28. Jaworski has his man Montgomery, who dropped the ball, but again, remember, he was in the air, and it's no catch. Jaworski hit Montgomery, but his feet were off the ground. No reception.
Minnesota's rushing 3 linemen, dropping back 5 linebackers, and then 3 deep behind that core of linebackers. That time Montgomery had the ball and then dropped it, looked like, but he was not down on the ground yet. And for that reason, it was an incompleted forward pass.
So it is 3rd and 3 on the Eagle 28-yard line. 1:32 to the half. 14-9 Minnesota. Jaworski peering down the shotgun again. Long count. Jaworski releasing to Camfield, who falls down, and Duck White then makes sure, along with Matt Blair, that he stays down. Hank, is there anything to learn from the fact that the Eagles seem to be going more shotgun?
Well, I think in this right before the half period, they have to throw the ball to try to get back into the game at halftime, and so it's very obvious that everybody else knows they're going to throw the ball, and the best way to throw it is to get it back into the shotgun.
Of course, there are debates about the shotgun, but we can't get into it now as time is running out. 14-9 Vikings, 1:14 to the half. The preceding message furnished by the National Football League. Max Runniger punting to Eddie Payton, and Runniger gets it away, angling it over to the left side. Payton comes to the 35, lets it hit, and both he and the ball slide out of bounds. So we have 1 minute and 6 seconds to the half, with Minnesota leading the Eagles 14-9. And of course, the Eagles really got on the scoreboard on one big play, the flea flicker, where Montgomery gave it back to Jaworski, and a 49-yard pass to Carmichael set up the Eagle touchdown. Minnesota, meanwhile, has scored on 2 big plays, passes to Joe Sensor, the tight end, and to wide receiver Sammy White. There was a field goal by the Eagles, Tony Franklin, and that's it. 14-9 Vikings, 1 minute to the half.
You have to be impressed with the way both teams are throwing the football with the way this wind is this afternoon.
1st and 10 on the Viking 33. Kramer getting time over the middle in a crowd intended for Ted Brown. It seemed like it was a dangerous play, Hank. There were a lot of Eagles fluttering around.
Yeah, there was a lot of folks inside that time. I'm surprised he threw it into that area. Usually he uses good discretion, and but that time he looked like he threw into a lot of folks.
He is also throwing into a diminishing wind. When we came on the air, the wind was 38 miles an hour. They said it was going to gust to 45, and as I say, it's diminishing and it just picks up again. So it's going to be that kind of a day. 2nd and 10 on the Viking 33. Slot right. Ted Brown, the only setback, and he releases. Kramer down the middle. No good. Sammy White up in the air, couldn't hold it. And I would think the hands are a little stiff and slippery, although it is not bitter cold. It's around 40 degrees and maybe under that.
Yeah, it's surprising. They don't usually drop those kind of passes. It was thrown very well, right about the shoulder pad level, I should say, and it should have been caught by Sammy White.
How do you rate Kramer's arm? Does he throw a hard ball, or can he vary it?
You know what he's got? He's got great anticipation, great vision, reads defenses very well, great timing. He doesn't have a great gun, but he's got a good enough arm to get the ball where he has to throw it.
And you can see the comparison there on a 3rd and 10 from the 33 of the Vikes. Kramer releasing to Sensor. There's always Joe Sensor, the tight end, to get out of bounds. He just keeps popping up like the devil.
Yes, but the amazing thing about it is that Kramer is always aware of where he is. You see, and that's so important. The communication between the receivers here is really, really excellent.
So Ted Brown has caught 7, and Joe Sensor has caught 4. Sensor 4 catches and a touchdown, and it just seems like every time there's a crowd, Kramer suddenly says, "Where's my man?" And there he is.
And you know, the other thing is Sensor does a good job of acting. He was an excellent basketball player, He's great at pushing off and getting the feel of pressure with people around him, and he's able to cruise into the open spots, and that's why he's open.
And as we mentioned earlier, he has caught 4, one of them for a touchdown. He's averaged a touchdown every 6 times he gets his hands on the ball. So 1st and 10 from midfield, and they want to move Ted Brown slightly to the right. And now a give to Brown, who juggled, but he keeps going. And Brown inside the 45, still driving to the Eagle 40-yard line.
That was really a good call, a good change of pace.
Why did he move him?
Because what happened was they were anticipating a strong rush. They ran a trap and made good yardage on the play.
Here's the 2-minute drill, and the pass is juggled and caught by Sensor. Of course it's caught by Sensor. Who else would catch it but Sensor?
And he looked like he ran right off the bench, right off the sideline to make that catch. Incredible.
I've never seen a guy pop up as many times as Joe Sensor. And they're going to spot the ball on the Eagle 10-yard line. What a remarkable turn of events. Sensor now has caught 5 for better than 80 yards. It is 1st and 10. The ball is actually beyond the 10-yard line, so it's not a 1st and goal. And we have 22 seconds to the half. Rashad and White go left. Sensor is the tight end on the right side. Kramer, alley-oop to Rashad, off his fingertips. He might have run out of real estate even had he caught it. It was questionable.
Yes, he's dropped a couple of balls here this afternoon that he doesn't ordinarily drop, and he had a good chance to make that catch, but as you say, it might have forced him out of bounds.
I think he might have just let him a foot or so. So it is 2nd and 10. We have 18 seconds to the half. The Vikings are leading the undefeated Eagles 14-9. And of course there was some bad feeling here last year, remember? Bud Grant thought that Vermeil and the Eagles had run up the score.
Yes, there was a little bad blood after the game, yes.
So if anything, the Vikings are hungry for the upset. 2nd and 10 from the 10. Kramer on a blitz, and the reception by Brown, finally forced out by Bernard Wilson at about the 3, and we have 13 seconds left.
And pass looks like pass interference on the play on the part of Bernard Wilson. Let's see what they call number 22.
For Brown, that would be his 8th reception. Time left, 13 seconds to the half, and the Vikings driving. We're waiting for Fred Silva to give us the interpretation. They just took out the Terriers, LeConte and Rashad, but now they might want them back again. Let's see. We're still waiting for Fred Silva.
Pass interference, defense, number 22 on the 5-yard line. 1st down.
Okay, 1st and goal on the Eagle 5 against Bernard Wilson. Brewer, the tight end, is in there, and Kramer seems to say, no, bring me back my Terriers. And you can see down in the right-hand corner, a couple of bulbs have burned out, but it looks like 18 seconds. So with 2 tight ends as wide receivers, how do you like that? Brewer and Sensor. Kramer on a roll. Throwing in the end zone to Brewer, no good. When was the last time you saw 2 tight ends as wide receivers?
I haven't seen that in a long, long time.
That is some play.
But they had the defensive back that time slipped in the end zone, but the ball was thrown over the top. He was forced to throw the ball before he actually wanted to because of the pressure.
Now here come the guys that Kramer wanted in the first place. LeConte, Rashad, and White. And out goes Huffman along with Brewer and Young. And it appeared to me on the previous play he was begging the bench to send the little guys back in.
Yes, he was sending up a flare trying to get him back in the game, but it didn't do any good.
So now it's 2nd and goal from the 5 with 8 seconds to the half. Rashad and White, slot left. LeConte in motion left, picked up by Canfield. It's to Brown, and Brown is out of bounds with a flag on the play. Brown is out at about the 1-yard line. 4 seconds to the half. And it'll be a holding penalty against the Eagles. Is there enough time for a play, or do you go for the 3 points?
Well, there's 4 seconds left.
Defense, number 47.
And you have to make a decision as to
Holding.
whether...
Refused. 3rd down.
Let's see where they mark the ball. It's down right about the 1-yard line.
Right.
Short of the 1-yard line, really. You have to make a decision as to whether you're going to try to make the touchdown and be satisfied that you're going to make it, or decide that you can't make it and go for the field goal. In this particular case, this being this short, they've got to go for the touchdown.
4 seconds to the half. 3rd and goal from the 1. Brewer and Sensor now. The twin tight ends are back in there. Play action fake. Kramer. Touchdown to Bob Brewer, the other tight end.
Play action fake, and they run a delay to Brewer, who looks like he's going to block off tackle and then slides across on the other side of the field. He popped clean, and touchdown, Minnesota.
That's the 2nd touchdown pass caught by Brewer this year. But, of course, I think everybody in the ballpark was looking for Sensor. And time has run out as Dan Meyer comes in to kick the extra point. The Minnesota Vikings, starting on their own 33, have scored again. The hold by Nord. The kick is up, and the kick is good. Time has run out, and the Minnesota Vikings are hoping that time will run out on the Eagles and their undefeated string. The Vikings scored 21 points in the 2nd quarter, and at halftime, Minnesota 21, the Eagles 9. Take another look at the Bob Brewer touchdown.
There we see, fakes off tackle to the right, and then throws back across the grain to Brewer, 82, who was wide open in the end zone for the touchdown.
So in looking at the numbers, Kramer went 18 for 30 for 219 yards and 3 touchdowns to Brewer, to White, and to Sensor. On the ground, the Vikings haven't done anything. Young carried once for 2 yards. Brown carried 8 times for 10 yards. So there's no ground attack at all.
No, they don't care. They're not particularly interested in the running attack. They just run enough to keep you honest and keep pressure on the defense from permitting the defense to get too much of a rush on the quarterback. But they come into the game with the idea they're coming off the bus, throwing a football, and they really throw a lot of high percentage stuff and do it very, very well.
Meanwhile, Jaworski is 10 for 16 and 121 yards, and only the flea flicker set them up for a touchdown. At halftime, to start the half here in Bloomington, Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings leading Philadelphia 21-9. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Hank Stram. Welcome back to Bloomington, Minnesota's Metropolitan Stadium, where the Minnesota Vikings are very much at home, and they're leading the Eagles 21-9 on 3 touchdown passes by Tommy Kramer to Sensor and Brewer, his tight ends, and to Sammy White. Philadelphia's 9, a field goal by Tony Franklin. Then there was a flea flicker from Jaworski to Montgomery to Jaworski to Harold Carmichael, and on a 1st and goal, Montgomery punched it over. 21-9 Vikings on a cool day in Minnesota. They tell us here there are 2 kinds of weather, Hank. Winter and road construction. I guess this is a road construction day.
I thought you were going to say cold and colder.
Nope. There's some folks well bundled up. I guess you could call it Viking weather. And Rick Danmeyer ready to kick. The deep man is Wally Henry. And Danmeyer's kick is short. It's going to be taken at about the 20-yard line by Billy Canfield to the 25, and McNeil has him among others and drops him at the 30. And the top man was Henry Johnson. There are the numbers for the first half. Anything startling? Anything that jump out at you, Hank?
Well, the passing yardage of the Minnesota Vikings is obvious. Everybody anticipated that they would throw the ball, try to throw the ball very well. And the fact that they threw it as well as they did is most impressive, especially with the weather the way it is. total yards, 231 to 149. But they really have dominated the game as far as the yardage part of it is concerned. Philadelphia is an excellent football team, though, Benny. They're well disciplined, well coached, and they're going to come back here, and I know, and do a good job in the second half.
And of course, last year they beat Minnesota twice in the second half. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 30-yard line. Oliver is on a wing. Montgomery the setback, but now they're out of the eye. It's Montgomery still on his feet and skidded out to the 35-yard line. Among others, Matt Blair touched him going by. Montgomery, at the start of this second half, has carried the ball 8 times for only 26 yards, but he did carry the touchdown from 1 yard out. Of course, he's a great back, and he figures to be seen and heard from in this second half as the Eagles try to catch up. You know, the 21 points by the Vikings, that's the most points scored against the Eagles this year. 2nd and 6 on the 34. Montgomery butting heads, trying to get to the 40, and of course if he makes it, and he's not going to make it, it would have been the first down. They need about less than a yard, maybe only a foot. Atlanta, meanwhile, leading 20-14 at halftime in their ball game against St. Louis. And you can see that the 49ers have caught Green Bay. That's a hard-nosed half, 3-3. New Orleans leading Cleveland 14-10. That's a possible upset at halftime. And the Jets on top 13-7 in the third quarter against Buffalo. 3rd and 1 on the Eagle 39. Montgomery ran into Duck White, but he still picked up the first down. And we can duck in a couple of more scores for you. New England 14-0 over Houston in the third quarter. And Cincinnati really polishing off Pittsburgh 20-0 in the third quarter. And San Diego trying to bounce back from the Minnesota defeat last week. San Diego leading Baltimore 13-7. So that'll bring you up to date on everything we have. It is 1st and 10 Eagles. The ball on the Philadelphia 43-yard line, and Jaworski with the look of Eagles checking the Minnesota defense. Release, and the pass is to the tight end Keith Krefli. He's brought down by Kurt Knopf at about the 47-yard line, and I was wondering when Jaworski was going to discover the tight end. Minnesota has found that a valuable part of their game.
Yes, and of course the Eagles have not thrown the ball to the tight end nearly as much, of course, as the Vikings have. Coming into this game, Krefli has only caught 8 balls in 6 games.
So Jaworski, who is now 11 for 17, has a 2nd and 5 on the Eagle 48-yard line. And it's hand-blowing time in Bloomington. Long count. Play action fake to Oliver. Over the middle, juggled by Krefli, and no reception. Head knocking as Krefli had his eyes on the ball, and coming up was Tommy Hannon, and they just hit masks together. What a collision.
Yes, and Doug Martin, 79, got good pressure on Jaworski. He was lucky to get rid of the ball like he did. He threw it remarkably well under the circumstances, and Hannon really gave him a shot.
And watch Matt Blair as he stays with the tight end and got 5 on that ball. And that was one reason why Krefli couldn't hold it. And look at that collision with Tommy Hannon. So it is 3rd and 5 on the Eagle 48. Big third down play for Jaworski. So he loads up the shotgun. Jaworski to Montgomery. And apparently through his fingertips. Well, it'll be 4th and 5. You know, Hank, we have a minute. We've seen a lot of drops, and of course it's cold. You can't use stickum anymore. I guess there's nothing you can do to help your receivers. They can't. Well, they could wear gloves.
Yeah, well, some people feel that the gloves help them a little bit, but in cold weather, the tackiness of the ball gets a little hard, and it gets to be kind of slippery. And so as a result, if you don't get good possession of the ball, a lot of times it's going to slip through like it has here this afternoon.
Well, here's Max Roniger getting off his second punt, low end over end, and it'll run by Eddie Payton and go into the end zone. So the Vikings will put it in play on their own 20-yard line. Of course, that is not what they wanted. So with 11:51 left in the third quarter, it's 21-9 Minnesota. First and 10 for Minnesota. The ball on the Viking 20-yard line. 21-9 Vikes with 11:51 left in the third quarter. Ted Brown is the setback behind Kramer, and they'll go with Brown inside the block by Wes Sutherland, and he got out to about the 21. Say, friends, this telecast presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Minnesota Vikings and the National Football League is prohibited. So 2nd and 9 from the 21-yard line. Later today, Washington at Miami, the Giants at Seattle, Tampa Bay at Oakland. Can Oakland ever score? That's the question before the House and the jury. Kramer looking over the right side and deep. Sammy White was down there, but the ball was not anywhere near him. So it'll be a 3rd and 9.
That's one of the few times all afternoon with the weather like it is that they've had any kind of a pass that looked like it wasn't well organized and good communication between the quarterback and the receiver.
And you can see the passing stats, almost 100 yards more for the Minnesota Vikings.
The key in the second half for Philadelphia, they must be able to put more pressure on the quarterback in the second half.
3rd and 9 on the Viking 21-yard line. Kramer has passed for 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. Harrison can't get him, but Harrison did enough of a job to scare him to death.
Yeah, so you're using a 4-man line that time, and they put a lot more pressure on him, made him throw the ball before he actually wanted to, and for that reason it fell incomplete.
So Ted Brown is leaving for the moment. The kicking unit comes on. 4th and 9 from the 21-yard line. That was a good defensive play by Dennis Harrison to put so much pressure on Kramer he couldn't really get off on target. So 4th and 9. Coleman will be kicking from the Viking 10-yard line. Wally Henry is standing on the Eagle 37. Coleman will be punting with the wind that has been gusting, they tell me, up to 45 miles an hour today. And he gets one that Henry has to come up to take at the 45 to midfield, and they'll stack him up between the 50 and the 45. That wasn't that good a punt. It was not much hang time, and of course he had big wind with him.
Yeah, he came across at that time and he didn't get a good spiral.
21-9 Minnesota. Lineup: Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. Minnesota will go to St. Louis. The Giants will be at Atlanta. Green Bay at Detroit, and the Rams will be at San Francisco. Hank, you'll be in Philadelphia, won't you?
Yes, and doing that game with Tommy Brookshire, because you'll be doing a World Series.
I'll be somewhere. I'll either be, let's see, next Sunday, either in Los Angeles or Montreal. We do know the Yankees will be there. And of course, remember that very attractive Sunday all starts with the NFL today.
How about the big bird you flew in with yesterday? Huh?
Big bird. That's where I belong, on Sesame Street anyway. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 47-yard line. 21-9 in favor of Minnesota, and Ron Jaworski trying to get something going. And fake to Montgomery, and Jaworski going to Carmichael. No good. And of course, the biggest Philadelphia play of the day was the flea flicker and the eventual 49-yard pass to Carmichael, but not that time.
Good faking that time on the part of Jaworski. A good play action fake inside, held the linebackers and also the defensive line. He had plenty of time to throw the ball, but threw it over the top and falls incomplete.
The lights are on here at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington. Those angry pewter gray sky up ahead. About a 40-mile-an-hour wind, temperature around 40 degrees. And there's the way it looks if you were here with us. In fact, if you're going to watch the rest of the game, put on a sweater.
Yeah, that's right, or an overcoat.
2nd and 10 on the 47. Don't let the kids near the set.
Look at the room on that right side.
See if Jaworski exploits it. He's looking down the right side, off the hands of Kurt Knopf. Tried to make a one-hand catch, and look at all the purple around Wilbert Montgomery.
Yeah, here again, he threw the ball over the top. There was one-on-one on that side. Receiver came inside, and the defensive tackle, nose man, James White, got good pressure, and he made him throw the ball over the top, and it falls incomplete.
So it is 3rd and 10 on the Viking 47-yard line after a rather poor punt by Greg Coleman. The Viking defense least in the NFC. 3rd and 10. Snap. Martin is down underneath the pile, and I believe Doug Martin recovered the ball. He sure did. Number 79. There he is. And is he thrilled? It was a very bad snap by Guy Morris, who appeared to be coming up out of his stance and squirted the ball back to Jaworski.
Yes, people don't realize that they snapped that ball back. It's a blind snap. And he just snapped it back there poorly, especially with somebody on his nose.
The troubles of Guy Morris.
He has to snap the ball without looking, and he's got a man on his nose that time, which makes it very difficult for him to do the blocking and also get the ball back there properly. He didn't do a good job of getting it back, and a fumble on the play.
So it is 1st and 10 on the Eagle 39-yard line. And the number 2 man in the NFC dealing a hot hand today, leading 21-9. 10:38 left in the 3rd quarter. In motion is Ahmad Rashad. Kramer going deep down the middle to Sam White. Bobbled and dropped, and Roynell Young appeared to make the interception, and he couldn't hold on to it. Second-year man at Alcorn State had a chance but couldn't hold it.
It looked like he made up his mind that time he was going to throw the ball deep to Sammy White. He had Young in the open on the right side here, number 34, but never even looked in his direction. Threw the ball up on top, and Roynell Young, number 43, really had it and then dropped it.
Isn't that always the way? After the other team makes a poor play where they're down psychologically, you try to hit them with a knockout punch?
Yes, you try to get a big play on him, and that's what they try to do there, of course.
2nd and 10 on the Eagle 39. Fake to the right. Pete overthrew his man, and Ricky Young was wide open. Bernard Wilson got a hand on it, but that was almost after the fact.
Kramer did a good job of selling the defense on the idea that he was going to throw to the right. Look, and he pumps right and then goes back to the left side and tries to get the ball over the top. Bernard Wilson showed great anticipation, good timing, leaped up high and made the deflection.
And Bud Grant, unflappable, unreadable really, as he stands over there, the head coach of the Vikings, trying to upset the Eagles. The Eagles, the last of the undefeated. They're 6-0, but Minnesota dealing the cards right now. 3rd and 10 on the Eagle 39. Kramer had his arm hit, bobbled, caught by Rashad, but no good. Rashad was OB. Kramer's arm was hit. He's lucky he could throw the ball that far.
Yes, that's right. The Eagles are doing a better job of penetrating with a 4-man rush. They're getting much better pressure on Kramer, number 9. Watch it. They have a stunt. Number 71 comes through there and gets good penetration. Ken Clark, number 71, and gets a piece of the quarterback. No play on the play.
So it is 4th and 10. Greg Coleman will be punting from midfield. Wally Henry started to go to about the 5-yard line, and he thinks better of it. He'll come up to the 10. Coleman's average is way down in this game, only 35 yards, and there's Wally Henry. And Coleman gets it away. Henry sees it hit on the 10 and go out of bounds at the 11-yard line. So that was an excellent punt by Greg Coleman to drop a poached egg on the Eagle 11. And it's 21-9 Minnesota, 10-12 to go in the 3rd quarter. The Steelers, and it's 27-0 Bengals.
Cincinnati is starting to surface. They're really a very talented football team then, and they're starting to play well. I think they're starting to believe they can play well. They're going to be tough from here on in.
1st and 10 on the 11-yard line for Jaworski and the Eagles. And it'll be Hubert Oliver. And Oliver hit at the 15 and really primarily on his own efforts. Got out to about the 17-yard line. Martin had an arm on him, then several of the linebackers, and he still fought his way for a couple. Fred McNeil finally brought him down. Pretty tough carry that time for Hubert Oliver. He's a rookie out of Arizona. They called him the Rock Man over there. He scored 18 touchdowns rushing, and he's a hard nut. 5'10", 212. So it is a 2nd down play for Jaworski, and it's Montgomery. And Montgomery out across the 25-yard line. He'll pick up the 1st down as the Eagles try to regroup and get going. Matt Blair hitting him first.
Well, Montgomery has great vision. Here he is lined up at the left halfback position, and he sees a little running room on the inside. The play was designed to go off tackle. He saw the seam inside, took advantage of it, and popped right through there for the 1st down. Good run on the part of Montgomery, number 31.
Down on the field, Matt Blair is shaken up. He was the man who was at the bottom of that Montgomery run. There is Wilbert, 5'10", 195-pounder out of Abilene Christian.
London.
One leg. Matt Blair had him by the other leg, and they made a wish. That's 1st and 10 on the 26 of Philadelphia. And a screen to Charlie Smith, who hasn't been heard from. He got one block from Sizemore, but one block with 4 Vikings is not enough. And Henry Johnson, who has just replaced Matt Blair, knocked him out. There's Henry, 2 years out of Georgia Tech.
That was a quick screen, faking left and then throwing right. Had no chance really on the play. Number 37, Willie Teal, comes up there in a good position, along with some other help from the other defensive backs, and he doesn't make much on the play.
Matt Blair, who was injured, is back in the ball game now. And it is 2nd and 5 on the Eagle 31. It's a draw to Oliver. And Oliver was grabbed by Studwell, fumbled the ball, I believe. White has the ball, and the Vikings have recovered it. James Duck White has the football.
Turnovers and field position, Ben, very, very important. The only thing is now that Minnesota had good field position the last time they had it, didn't do anything with it. They have to do something here to get a bigger lead on the Philadelphia Eagles, because this game is a long way from being over, and they're going to fight you tough all the way through. Talking about Philadelphia.
So the Oliver fumble recovered by James White, and you can see Philadelphia 2 turnovers. The last one was on a bad snap. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 29-yard line. Kramer setting up to go right and throws behind Ted Brown, who tried to one-hand it and couldn't do it.
They're doing a better job of providing pressure. That time they blitzed the linebacker Wilkes along with the 3 linemen, and they're getting to Kramer a lot better than they did in the first half with the package they had in the first half of trying to rush the quarterback with just 3 people.
The Jets on top 27-14 in the 3rd against Buffalo.
Now they got 4 defensive linemen in the game.
2nd and 10 on the 29-yard line of the Eagles. Sensor, the tight end, is on the left side, but they'll stay to Ted Brown, and Brown is hit and twisted 2 or 3 ways. The guy on top is Ken Clark. Well, you talk about making a pretzel out of a ball carrier. So Ted Brown, who has really been busy, not only has he carried the ball 10 times for 24 yards, Brownie has also caught 9 for 74 yards. He's had a big day.
And he's a very prominent guy in the overall scheme of things here at Minnesota. He's a very outstanding all-purpose running back.
So it is 3rd and 7 on the Eagle 26-yard line. Terry LeConte goes wide right, and the Vikes slot left. White is inside Rashad. A little release to Ted Brown, and he's going to go to the 20 before he is upended by Blackmore, and he is dropped inside the 20 at about the 18. That should be the 1st down.
Brown did a super job that time. He knew exactly where he had to go for the 1st down. He kind of sliced between two defensive people and got the yardage that he had to have. Watch it. He looks downfield, dumps the ball off, catches it in stride, goes down the sideline, and number 27 has a shot at him.
Blackmore.
Yeah, Blackmore has a shot at him, but in spite of that, he still got through there for the first down.
Ted Brown has now caught 10 passes. But you know what? He caught a dozen against Tampa Bay in September. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 18-yard line. In motion is Sensor, the tight end. The pass, too much for Sammy White, but he let him way deep in the end zone. Sammy White today has caught one ball, but it was good for 50 yards and a touchdown. So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 18-yard line. Now remember, the Eagles have done a great job. After the bad snap and the recovery, the Vikings had the ball 1st and 10 on the Eagle 39, and they didn't gain a yard. The second time they've just gotten the ball on the Oliver fumble, they had it on the Eagle 18, and here's 2nd and 10 from the 18.
We haven't heard much from Mr. Ahmad Rashad here this afternoon either.
No, that's because Sensor's been so busy, I guess, and he's a wingback on the left side. The pass is to Brown, and Brown goes out of bounds at about the 11-yard line, knocked out by Jerry Robinson.
It's the same old thing. A very high percentage pass to Brown in the flat, working on a linebacker. There you see him.
Hank, what can you do about that?
You have to double cover him. You got to do something with linebackers. And guess right. Hopefully you guess right by playing him inside outside with linebackers and double covering him so that he doesn't get a matchup between one linebacker and Ted Brown.
Well, it's 3rd and 2 on the Eagle 10-yard line. 21-9 Vikings. Minnesota trying to cash in the Oliver fumble and pick up another score. Kramer to Brown, trying to get outside. And he's going to be pushed out of bounds. Al Chesley and Herman Edwards came over to hit him. And he picked up the first down, which will make it a 1st and goal. He had to get to the 8, and he goes out of bounds at about the 6. Ted Brown, a remarkable day. He's picked up 90 yards passing and another 28 yards rushing.
You know, you have to be impressed with his awareness of where he is at all times and what he has to do to get the necessary yardage. He went exactly to the right spot to get that yardage for the first down.
Well, 1st and goal on the 6-yard line. Sammy White wide left, Ahmad Rashad wide right. Brown and Young the running backs, and it's Brown, and he just runs into an Eagle team meeting, and that's the end of that play. Among others, Hairston, Robinson, Chesley. Half the team is down there to stop Brown on that play. So it'll be 2nd and goal from the Eagle 5-yard line.
You know, as much as Minnesota has thrown the ball, this is usually a very good time to draw. Whether they'll do that or not, you don't know. But this is a good place to draw on the 5-yard line on 2nd down.
To illustrate your point, Kramer has completed 20 out of 34. 2nd and 5 on the 5-yard line. To Rashad. He's got it. Touchdown, Ahmad Rashad.
He caught him in a bump and run and just threw the ball right over the top. Beautifully thrown to the outside, and the defensive back, number 27, Blackmore, had no chance whatsoever. Here he again. He does a good job of holding him up, and then he gets turned around the wrong way. The defensive back got turned improperly. The ball is thrown outside. Touchdown, Minnesota.
That's the 3rd touchdown for Rashad. The hold by Nord is bobbled, but the kick is good anyway. JoJo Heath trying to block that point, and that's a great kick by Danmar.
Oh, he kicked a submarine shot that time, very low. It's amazing how it got through there. It must have had the radar hooked up to the ball.
I don't know how Keith Nord ever got the ball up on its point, but the Philadelphia Eagles are getting the point. They are in for a dogfight today. Minnesota 28 and the undefeated Eagles 9. Let's take another look. This crowd is delirious in Bloomington. Here's Kramer looking for Rashad.
And again, it's bump and run, which means the defensive back is playing the receiver 1-for-1 on the line of scrimmage. And Rashad did a good job of making the defensive back turn, and he got the ball on the outside. Touchdown, Minnesota.
We have 5 minutes and 32 seconds left in the third quarter. And if the Eagles are going to get off the ground today, they're going to have to start to make a move.
Yeah, they have to start making some big plays defensively. They cannot consistently have to go 80 yards to get back into this football game. They've got to reduce the size of the field some way by making some big plays and getting in better field position.
So as the result of the Hubert Oliver fumble that was recovered by James White, the Vikes go 8 plays, 29 yards, capped it off with a 5-yard pass to Rashad, and an excellent point after by Rick Danmar. He had to kick one that looked like it was belly up on the ground, but somehow he got it up to thump it through. So he's 4 for 4 today, 17 for 19. Wally Henry keeping his hands warm in the sunshine, standing back on about the 3-yard line. So if you're Wally Henry, this is the way it would look down on the field as Danmar kicks it right to you. And Henry will take it at about the 8, to the 15, to the 20. And down he goes at about the 23-yard line. Down there was Henry Johnson along with Randy Holloway, and at the very bottom, Tommy Hannon. Don't forget, with Tampa Bay and Minnesota began today tied in first place 4-2, and Tampa Bay is at Oakland, where Oakland trying to find the key to the end zone. Meanwhile, the Giants are at Seattle and Washington at Miami. By the way, Kramer has thrown 4 touchdown passes to 4 different players, to Sensor, Brewer, White, and Rashad. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 24. Jaworski to the right side, no good. And flags all over the place. Charlie Smith apparently interfered with John Turner. Looked like he was all over him, so I'm sure it'll be pass interference against number 27.
Defensive pass interference, number 27. 1st down.
Yeah, that was pretty easy to spot.
Yeah, no question about that. That was a good call on the part of the official. The play, he fakes outside and tries to whistle the ball inside. But it's very obvious that John Turner, number 27, was involved in pass interference on the play.
So 1st and 10 for Jaworski on the Eagle 39-yard line. 5:18 left in the third quarter. 28-9 Minnesota. Jaworski to Montgomery with Guy Morris trying to throw a block, but McNeil pushed him out of bounds before he could get anywhere near Morris's block.
The Eagles are doing a good job of changing the tempo of the game a little bit. As from an offensive viewpoint, they're going on a lot of quick counts and getting a jump on the defense.
Hank, I can see a one-man screen with, let's say, tackle Sizemore, but that was a screen with the center trying to get across. That seems like a very difficult play to execute.
Well, it all depends. It all depends on who is covered or uncovered. In that particular case, evidently, Morris was not covered, so he released and was outside on the play.
A tough way for Guy Morris to get out there to block from Montgomery, but he did. 2nd and 3 on the Eagle 46. And it's Montgomery, slowed down by Martin, got away from Holloway, but he's finally dropped short of the 1st down. Doug Martin and Randy Holloway had him in the backfield, and Montgomery escaped the trap, and finally Blair brought him down.
And they're using a 4-man line now, talking about Minnesota. And watch Martin get penetration. That's the one thing that you do not want to have happen on that kind of a play, for anybody to get penetration. Martin did. He slowed him down, and no chance to make yardage on the play.
So it is 3rd and 2 on the Eagle 47-yard line. Big call for Jaworski. He has to keep a drive going. Montgomery following Oliver. Up upended at the last minute by Kurt Knopf. Had he not been tripped up by Knopf at the 45, he would have gotten a lot more than where they're finally going to spot the ball at about the 43.
Let's say that the center, Morris, did a good job on the middle linebacker. Studwell knocked him beyond the hole. Montgomery saw the seam, took advantage of it, and popped right through there for the first down.
Mark Mullaney is back in, replacing and make it Ken Sanders. So Sanders, number 89, is in there. 1st and 10 on the Viking 43-yard line. Under heat from Martin. He releases to Oliver. Got away from Holloway, but McNeil was there, and so was Studwell to drop him at the 50-yard line.
That Minnesota defense is not playing like they were 11th in total defense, 6 against the run, 13 against the pass. They're playing much better than that here this afternoon.
In fact, Dick Vermeil, the coach of the Eagles, was quoted as saying that the front of Minnesota is a lot better than last year, and needless to say, the scoreboard backs him up. 28-9 in favor of Minnesota. 2nd and 17, and there's Vermeil squinting in the Minnesota sun as Jaworski does the same, and he's going to be trapped, and down he goes. Randy Holloway had him, but there was also pressure from Martin and Sanders. But Randy Holloway, number 75, 4-year man out of Pittsburgh.
And Minnesota has gone away from the 3-man rush a little bit. They're using 4 men, knowing that they're going to have to throw to get back into this football game. They're putting good pressure on him. Doug Martin again coming up the middle, and Holloway, number 75, coming from the outside.
So it is 3rd and 22. It was 1st and 10 on the Viking 43, and the ball is now back on the Eagle 45. Well, you can see the Vikings trying to stiffen, and of course Jaworski will really have to come up with a hold card now on a 3rd and 22. Carmichael in a slot left. And Jaworski deep, and it is deflected by Seaman, and it is caught by McNeil, and McNeil still on his feet, and he's in Eagle territory at the Eagle 48-yard line. The pass deflected by Jeff Seaman and intercepted by Fred McNeil.
And Fred McNeil really did a terrific job of maintaining his balance and getting a lot more out of the play than it looked like he would have after he made the interception. Watch it. They have a 3-man rush all the time in the world to throw the ball. It's deflected, knocked up into the air by Jeff Seaman, actually. 54, McNeil makes the interception. Look at the great run he makes there. Really terrific. Switches the ball and everything.
The toughest play from McNeil was to try and get the ball away from Tommy Hannon, his teammate.
He was trying to intercept it.
You bet he was. So it is 1st and 10 on the Eagle 48-yard line. Another Eagle turnover. A screen for Rashad with Ron Yeri trying to block, and Rashad going the other way. A flag on the play, and Rashad will go down having crossed the Eagle 45-yard line. But there's holding against the Vikes, actually illegal use of the hands perhaps, against Minnesota to nullify the play.
Here we see Rashad going straight up the field, backing back off on a quick screen. Does a good job of doing a little tap dance, getting away from defensive people. Goes over to the far side of the field with the ball in the wrong arm. He ought to have it on the left arm instead of the right. But there's a clip or a push on the play, and it's being called back.
Offense, number 67. Illegal push in the back. Still 1st down.
Well, that's Dennis Swilly, the center. There he is, 5 years out of Texas A&M. He was a Viking number 2 draft choice in 1977. He's a good one. Swilly is backed up by Jim Langer, the veteran you might remember who played so long and well from Miami, among others. 1st and 20 on the Minnesota 42. 2 minutes 4 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. And Kramer has Ricky Young, and Young is dropped immediately by Al Chesley at the 46-yard line. For an NFL update, let's go to New York and to Brent Musburger.
The St. Louis Cardinals have cut the Atlanta Falcons lead to 3. Bartkowski pulls out from the 45. Jenkins goes long. It's good. Touchdown, Atlanta. 27-17. The Falcons with the lead. Let's go back now to Vin Scully.
Okay, Brent, we have certainly seen enough of the Falcons all last year in this to know what kind of an explosive club they have. Remember that last week's game was something. 2nd and 15 from the Viking 47. Kramer to Brown, who was hit and never did have his hands on the ball, so no reception. And the man who made sure he wasn't going to have his hands on the ball was number 56, Jerry Robinson. We have 1 minute and 19 seconds left to go in the third quarter. 28-9 Minnesota.
You know, one thing that's going to be very important to consider, even though the score right now is 28-9, the Philadelphia Eagles will have the ball, will have the win in the fourth quarter, and that should be very beneficial.
By the way, Tommy Kramer is 22 for 42, 245 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3rd and 15 on the Viking 47s. Kramer on a handoff to Brown, and Brown bulls to the 45, shedding Ken Clark along the way. San Diego opening up a little bit on Baltimore at halftime. San Diego 23, Baltimore 7. Of course, 23 isn't enough. They scored 31 points last week and lost to Minnesota. Now it is 4th and 7, so Greg Coleman will be punting from the 45-yard line. Coleman, originally drafted by Cincinnati, was a free agent with Cleveland and picked up here and doing well. Wally Henry, the deep man on the Eagle 10-yard line. Coleman angling it, but it doesn't go for him. Henry goes back and makes the tackle at the 10. And Studwell bear hugs him and drops him at the 14-yard line. Scott Studwell, who is Tommy Kramer's roommate. And Studwell just came out of the sea of people, a 5-year man out of Illinois. But, of course, when you see Studwell make a tackle, you have to remember, in his senior year at Illinois, he broke the tackle records held by Dick Butkus, so he can play. Hey, today's doubleheader. Tampa Bay is tied with Minnesota right now. They're in Oakland. The Giants are at Seattle, Washington at Miami. That's the doubleheader following this game.
You know, talking about Tommy Kramer, when he came into the professional football, he said that he was going to try desperately and hope that he could be an all-pro when he was 27 years old. He's 26 now, so he's right on schedule, I think.
And don't you think he's an all-pro?
I sure do. Yes, yep. I do.
1st and 10 on the Eagle 14-yard line. Another good one, Ron Jaworski over center. Jaworski staying on the ground with Oliver out to about the 19-yard line. Remember, it was Oliver's fumble that was recovered by James White that led to the touchdown pass to Ahmad Rashad. 28-9 Vikings. 7 seconds left in the third quarter. So the Eagles 15 minutes away with their unblemished record. That's the end of the third quarter. The score, Minnesota 28, the Eagles 9. We'll be back with the start of the fourth quarter after this word from your local station. Bud Grant and the Minnesota Vikings have the Eagles in trouble. The Eagles, with their perfect 6-0 record, have run up against the Vikes and Tommy Kramer. It is 28-9 Minnesota in the fourth quarter. Bud Grant counting playoffs, 144 victories. And on the other side, Dick Vermeil, who won his 50th in his career last week in the victory against New Orleans.
28-9 seems like a very, very big lead, but when you really break it down, it's 3 plays away from being back in the game. So, you know, they've got the win now. Things could happen. And the Eagles have the personnel for big plays. Jaworski, Montgomery, Carmichael, etc. From the 19, Montgomery. And Montgomery is out to the 26-yard line with Studwell on the top. Matt Blair down at the bottom. And here again, Minnesota anticipating throwing the ball on the part of Philadelphia is not playing the 3-4. They're playing a 4-3, trying to get more pressure when they have to rush the passer from their 4-man line instead of trying to rush with 3. So 1st and 10. There's the comparison, and as you can see, Kramer is having a tremendous day. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 26.
Jaworski down the right side, and he's got his man Charlie Smith. John Turner kind of pushes him out of bounds at the 42-yard line. And just like that, the Eagles pick up another first down. That's the second one.
Charlie Smith does a good job of coming off the line of scrimmage like he's going to run a deep pattern, then breaks to the outside. The ball is thrown right on the money, and John Turner, number 27, gets there just a little bit too late.
So first and 10 for Philadelphia on their own 42-yard line, 28-9 Vikings. The Vikings did not score in the first quarter, but they had 21 points in the second and 7 more in the third. Meanwhile, the Eagles had a touchdown in the first quarter and a field goal in the second. Montgomery, oh, what a hit by Jeff Seaman. Hit him head on. Jeff Seaman, number 50, 10 years out of Stanford. He's been in 4 Pro Bowls, and when you see him make a stick like that, you know why.
Yes, he's very tough on the inside, and they're using a 4-man line, and he's the only middle linebacker. And watch Montgomery trying to cut back away from the middle linebacker at that time, but he didn't flow. Caught him right in the hole with a beautiful tackle. Number 50.
So Jeff Seaman puts the wood to Montgomery. That makes it 2nd and 9 on the Eagle 43-yard line. Montgomery on a wing. Carmichael in a slot. Jaworski to Smith. Charlie Smith makes the reception at the 29-yard line despite the effort by Willie Teal. Good catch by Charlie Smith, 8 years from Grambling.
And they had the right linebacker McNeil blitzing on the play. He didn't get penetration. Jaworski really stayed in the pocket well. Holloway got inside pressure. He threw the ball just beautifully on the outside on Willie Teal. And it's a big first down.
And you might notice, too, Charlie Smith is wearing gloves. So first and 10 on the Minnesota 29. And Jaworski trying to inspire his club now. Smith and Carmichael slot left. Montgomery on a wing. And Oliver the setback. And it's Oliver slanting to the 25-yard line. A lot of people involved in it. Matt Blair, the principal hitter, and down at the bottom is Scott Studwell.
These are 2 very well coached teams, man, which is very obvious. But Bud Grant has done a great job with the Minnesota Vikings, and of course Dick Vermeil has done such a super job with the Eagles.
By the way, Hank, talking about super jobs, I mentioned before Bud Grant has won 144, including playoff. You won 130 some odd, didn't you?
It was something like that,
yeah,
yes.
It sure was. 2nd and 6 from the 25. Jaworski down the right side to Montgomery. Touchdown, Wilbert Montgomery. He took it away from Walt Williams, who couldn't quite stay with him.
Did you see the cute little bump he got there on Williams? If we see it in the replay, he hesitated a lot, just long enough. Watch him. He's got a one-on-one on Walt Williams, and watch what happens downfield. He's looking to the inside, and watch here, he delays a little bit. See the little bump, pushes off of him, and makes the catch. Beautiful play by Wilbert Montgomery, number 31.
Beautiful pass from Jaworski to just lead him perfectly. There wasn't much that Walt Williams could do. So now it is 28-15, and suddenly you feel it in the ballpark. Wait a minute. Is it going to be one of those second halves for the Eagles against the Vikes?
And another thing is, I remember we talked about earlier, they've got to win in the 4th quarter. That's very, very important.
That was a little bit of a skitterish point after, but they made it. So it is 28-16. Vikings. Take another look. Jaworski to Wilbert Montgomery.
And they have Montgomery out wide as a flanker, and they got the match they wanted. They wanted Williams to try to cover him. He didn't. Touchdown, Philadelphia.
Well, Tony Franklin, barefooted here in Minnesota. 28-16 Vikings. Eddie Payton standing on the 1-yard line, waiting for the kick, and it's coming right at you. That's the way Payton sees it. Eddie takes it at the 1. To the 10, behind the wedge to the 20, 25, 30, upended by Roynell Young, and down he goes at about the 33. Roynell Young, number 43, kind of submarined him.
And I'm surprised that Eddie Payton is able to play as well as he is playing this afternoon. We saw him in the locker room yesterday in the training room getting treatment. There was some question as to whether he'd be able to play, but he's really come back in good shape, has done a great job.
He's the older brother of Walter Payton. And as you can see, Philadelphia's numbers, Jaworski's 25 to Montgomery gets him back in the ball game. So now the Vikings have it. 1st and 10 on the Viking 33. Play action fake to Brown, and Kramer finally unloading to Rashad, who makes the reception about a half a yard shy of the first down. And Charlie Johnson really lowered the boom on Tommy Kramer. Say, friends, we'd like to alert our viewers in Tampa Bay and Washington that the National Football League requires us to leave this game at 4 o'clock so that you can see full coverage of your home team. We'll continue to update you on this game as it comes to a conclusion. Kramer took such a hit that Charlie Johnson almost knocked him out of his uniform. But Kramer is 6'2", 205-pounder, a remarkable athlete. 2nd and 1 on the 42, and they stay on the ground and burst across to midfield. And it's Ted Brown who picks up the first down and then some, with Al Chesley bringing him down. A couple of scores for you. Look at that wild one. Atlanta 27, St. Louis 20 in the 3rd quarter. 13-3 San Francisco beginning to assert themselves over Green Bay. New Orleans in a tough one with Cleveland, leading 17-13 in the 3rd. 33-14 Jets with 4:21 left in the 4th. All right, 1st and 10 at midfield. In motion, Sammy White. Both backs release, and Kramer to White at midfield, and Roynell Young wraps him up, so they picked up maybe 2 yards on the play at best, 2 or 3. Roynell Young, only in his 2nd year at Alcorn State. And look at Cincinnati knocking holes in Pittsburgh 34-0. And one more, San Diego at a halftime with Baltimore 23-7. So you're right up to date. 2nd and 7. The ball on the Eagle 47-yard line. 28-16 Minnesota.
You know, it's frustrating to play defense against this Kramer kid because he gets rid of the ball so quickly. Even though you rush him, you get there a little bit too late.
2nd and 7. Kramer rolling to his left, throwing to White, who can't hold on to it. Jerry Robinson picked it up on a bounce. So it'll be a 3rd and 7.
Roynell Young did a good job of covering on the play. This time Kramer rolls out to his left, gets away from all the inside traffic. You see Sammy White, 85, breaking to the outside, but Roynell Young really does a great job of covering on the play.
So 3rd and 7 on the Eagle 47-yard line. 28-16 Minnesota. We have 10 minutes and 16 seconds left in the game. And remember, the Eagles dominated the Vikings in the 2nd half in their 2 meetings last year. And you can see the 3rd down conversions, they're almost equal. 3rd and 7. On a draw to Ted Brown, he got around Hairston. He gets by Herman Edwards, and he finally goes out by Bernard Wilson, but he picked up the first down. So a gutsy run by Ted Brown to pick it up.
And Rashad really did a good job of blocking on the play. It wasn't anything as far as a great physical block, but he got in the way enough where he provided Brown with, there you see the block.
On Herman Edwards.
Yeah, and you see Brown pop to the outside and get the necessary yardage for the first down.
So the ball is now on the Eagle 37-yard line, and the Vikings have it 1st and 10. The one man who had a shot but couldn't quite get an angle on him was Carl Hairston, who reached out, but he was about a half a foot shy of getting hold of Ted Brown. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 37. LeConte is wide left, and they go slot right. Kramer broken up and could have been caught by Reggie Wilkes, only he was thinking knock it down first. And the 4-year man out of Georgia Tech. There's Reggie.
The defensive backs on that right side, I was just getting ready to say, Ben, that right side was really open, and it was, except Wilkes leaped up into the air and knocked the ball down. Really a good play on his part.
He's the cousin of Jamal Wilkes, the well-known basketball player. All Reggie could do is dribble it. Take another look at that play.
There he is. Kramer going back into the pocket, a short drop. And that's the reason it's tough to get to him, because he takes a short drop and gets rid of the ball so quickly that it's hard to rush him as efficiently as you like.
Back to live. Kramer under some heat, and down he goes. All over him is Humphrey, and he gets a push from Chesley. Al Chesley got hot and pushed Kramer, who was already down. And now you can see Humphrey saying, hey, Tommy, easy. He wasn't thinking. Chesley, 3 years out of Pittsburgh, got a little carried away. And Humphrey, 14 years out of Tennessee State. At 37, he's the wise head to cool matters down. Tommy Kramer, 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers, 2 tight ends, Sensor and Brewer. He's also completed for touchdowns to Sammy White and Ahmad Rashad. 3rd and 21 on the Eagle 48. Pitch back to Ted Brown. He has Riley in front of him. And at the bottom to break the play down was Jerry Robinson. With Steve Riley leading the way, Robinson just took Riley down and stacked it up.
That was really a good call, because they had a long way to go for the first down, and you might surprise them with the run, which they did. They got a good chunk back on that 3rd down outside run.
They spot the ball at the Eagle 35-yard line. So Wally Henry again going deep on the Eagle 5-yard line, and Greg Coleman will punt again. Coleman out of Florida A&M. And his average doesn't look so good, because recently he kicked one out of bounds to prevent a run back. Well, Coleman will be kicking from the Eagle 45, and Wally Henry will be taking the kick, which will be sent up into the wind. 4th down and 7. The ball on the 35-yard line. And the flag on the play. Evidently too much time. Maybe that was on purpose so he wouldn't kick it into the end zone.
Yeah, it was deliberate. They just waited until the time ran out to bring the ball back 5 more yards so he'd get a better shot at a coffin corner kick, I think.
So they'll try it again. That's a pretty good buy of 5 yards under the circumstances. That'll make it 4th down and 12. The ball on the 39, and they'll move it out now to spot it just about on the 40.
Delay, number 8.
So Greg Coleman has bought the extra 5 yards. Now let's see what he can do about it. The wind, which was 32 miles an hour at the start of the game, gusting to 45, has died down for the moment. And he gets it away. It's going to hit and go in, so the strategy doesn't pay off, and Coleman, fit to be tied, delayed the game to get the extra 5, but still kicked it in the end zone. So the Eagles will have it 1st and 10 on their 20, 28-16 Vikings. Dick Vermeil and his Eagles have 8 minutes and 18 seconds left in the game, and they trail by 12 as they try to remain undefeated. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 20-yard line. Play action fake to Montgomery, and they're going to set up a screen, and it was partially deflected by Doug Martin, number 79. He is 6'3", but he must have looked 7 feet tall to Jaworski.
Well, he really got good penetration that time, and the thing was set up nicely, trying to throw a screen to the left side, but Doug Martin, number 79, got in there very well and knocked the ball down.
By the way, a moment ago they flashed Dick Vermeil's career record, but they did not add the 6 that he's won this year. He's won 50 in his career. 2nd and 10 on the 20-yard line. And Jaworski trying to get his Eagles off the ground again. Side, and he's got his tight end Keith Kreppley, Fred McNeil, chasing him out of bounds. He got out at the 26-yard line, so it'll be a 3rd and 4 on the 26.
if they continue to move the ball, then they got Montgomery one-on-one on the outside there, one-on-one. We might see another long pass to him if they get a little better field position.
By the way, Harold Carmichael has caught 4, and Wilbert Montgomery has caught 4. Those have been the leading receivers. And we can duck in a final now. The Jets have polished off Buffalo 33-14. Another final, San Francisco in a dogfight, but they held on to beat Green Bay 13-3. All right, 3rd and 4 on the 26-yard line. Jaworski out of a shotgun. Canfield is in there to help with the blocking. And the pass is complete for the first down to Wilbert Montgomery. He's dropped by Keith Nord on the far side of the field. So Montgomery picks up his 5th reception of the day.
You know, talking to Vermeil yesterday, we talked about Montgomery, and he said that if he felt like it and felt he could had to use him outside, if he started the season as a flanker, he could be one of the better or one of the best flankers in the National Football League at that position too, along with being a running back.
Well, Pittsburgh finally got on the scoreboard, but Cincinnati polished them off 34-7. Don't forget today's doubleheader. We'll see if Tampa Bay 4-2 can shut out Oakland or not. That certainly has to be part of that game. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 33. Jaworski has it intercepted by Matt Blair, and Matt Blair picks it off at the Eagle 44-yard line.
Three-man rush. Linebackers getting deep drops, and Matt Blair, the fine athlete that he is, number 59, comes up with a great interception here for the Minnesota Vikings. There you see it, delivering the ball, and Blair comes out in front and makes a big catch.
4th Philadelphia turnover. The winning lineup tonight on CBS, 60 Minutes. Archie Bunker's plays, followed by One Day at a Time, then Alice, the Jeffersons, and topping it off, Trapper John M.D. You can't beat it right here on CBS. For Ron Jaworski, he has thrown 2 interceptions. Add to that 2 more turnovers, and Philadelphia having a miserable day on that department. 7 minutes, 8 seconds left in the game. The Vikings leading 28-16. And they have it 1st and 10 on the Eagle 44. Ted Brown with Jim Huff blocking. And he's finally brought down, but what a nice block. Jim Huff threw on Reggie Wilkes. He just cut Wilkes' legs right out from under it.
Yes, he sure did. And they're leaning that way. Brown underneath handoff, and watch number 51, Jim Ho. A beautiful block out in front, good running on the part of Ted Brown, number 23.
And a flag on the play, and the penalty against Philadelphia. And that will bring the ball down to about the 22-yard line of the Eagles, and we'll get Fred Silva's call.
Defense, number 22. Face mask, 1st down.
Well, that's Bernard Wilson, guilty of the infraction. Take another look. See him reaching out and grabbing the iron and then jerking Brown down. 1st and 10 on the Eagle 22. 28-16 Vikings, 6:56 left in the game. Kramer to Brown, and Brown diving across the 20 to about the 18-yard line. We'd like to alert our viewers again in Tampa Bay and Washington. The NFL requires us to leave this game at 4 o'clock your time so that you can see full coverage of your home team. We'll continue to update you on this game as it comes to a conclusion, so you have a couple of minutes left to be with us, and we've enjoyed it. Vin Scully along with Hank Stram visiting with you from Bloomington, Minnesota. 2nd and 6 on the Eagle 18. Tommy Kramer, big day, 24 for 46, 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ted Brown got away from Chesley. Got away from Johnson and gets down to the 1.
Boy, what a job of running. You know, and he's such an easy rider, kind of a runner, that you don't look like he's eating up as much yardage as he actually is. Watch the good read. Good block by Ricky Young. Falls off a tackler. Gets by number 65, Charlie Johnson, and fights his way through the traffic and almost comes right out the other end right down about the 1-yard line.
So Ted Brown has caught 11 passes for 90 yards. He has rushed 19 times for 87 yards. What a day for Ted Brown. He's the 3-year man out of North Carolina State. 23 skidoo. First and goal on the 1. Touchdown, Minnesota. The first one they picked up on the ground today. So that makes it 34-16 in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. The land of the purple people, eagle eaters. And for Ted Brown, that just caps off a great day. Now he has a total of 178 yards on passes and rushes. Ted Brown, what an individual day. And remember, he had 109 yards on pass receptions last week. Now Dan Meyer trying to make it a perfect day with his foot, and he does it. 35-16 in favor of Minnesota, and the Eagles are 5 minutes and 20 seconds away from being beaten. Out, of course, was Matt Blair's interception on the Eagle 44, and eventually Ted Brown, having a magnificent day, punched it over from 1 yard. 35-16 Vikings, and Wally Henry, the deep man, and waiting for the reception, and he'll have to come up and take it at the 14. Henry to the 25, to the 30, and gets maybe a couple more to the 33-yard line. Down at the bottom is Dennis Johnson making the tackle. Number 52. So first and 10. They'll spot it on the Eagle 33. Hank, what do you think? 5 minutes left. Are they finished? They need 19 points just to tie.
Yeah, they need some big things to have happen for them to get back into this football game. And of course, you know, 5 minutes, a lot of crazy things can happen. You know where they're going to try. They're very intelligent. They're going to keep hustling. Anything can happen.
As you look at these numbers, what about a 5-minute drill? Why not just go into your 2-minute drill for 5 minutes?
Well, that's a good observation, and they'll be doing that, I'm sure.
First and 10 on the 33. 5:11 left in the game. Jaworski to Montgomery. He's at the 45, and they push him out of bounds at the 47-yard line, and immediately stops the clock, and it picks up a first down. Jaworski today, 20 for 33, 213 yards, but he's had 2 interceptions, and there were also 2 other turnovers that have really plagued Jaworski and the Eagles' efforts. So he's now gotten up to 228 yards. First and 10 on the Eagle 48. And the time, which is now Minnesota allied, 5 minutes and 6 seconds. And a little screen to Hubert Oliver. He has Kenny blocking, but he's caught from behind by Duck White, and he is dropped at the 45-yard line. He has to get to the 42. So Oliver dragged down from behind by Duck White. San Diego increasing its lead by 7, so they're now up 30-7 over Baltimore in the third quarter. Atlanta leading St. Louis 34-20 in the fourth. So it is 2nd and 3 on the Viking 45-yard line. Straight ahead is Hubert Oliver, and he's picked up more than the first down. They drop him at the 33-yard line. Hanging on was Matt Blair and Tommy Hannon. So first and 10 with 3:59 left in the game. The Eagles have 3 timeouts. So have Minnesota. 3:50. Carmichael and Smith go left. Montgomery, a wide receiver, right. Jaworski has his man Carmichael, and he's dropped by John Turner at the 21-yard line. So Harold Carmichael makes a key reception.
I don't know whether you can say it or not, but Montgomery was trying to get off. Oliver was trying to get off the ball that time and really got a shot by the linebacker on the play, Fred McNeil. McNeil, number 54.
So 1st and 10 on the Viking 21-yard line. 3:11 left in the game. It is 35-16 Vikings. Jaworski from the shotgun. Long count. Jaworski looking right. And he's got Carmichael, and he's going to go in the end zone for a touchdown. With 2:47 left, it is suddenly 35-22 as Carmichael makes the reception for the touchdown. For Carmichael, that would be his 2nd touchdown of the year.
This team is well poised and well disciplined, and they're hanging in there tough, executing their 2-minute offensive scheme of things, throwing outside to Carmichael. He makes the catch. He's aware of where he is. He straightens out, does not run out of bounds, runs up the field, and bounces into the end zone for the touchdown.
Boy, you know, at 6'8", he's a remarkable athlete. There's nothing floundering. There's nothing like a Raywood Stork or a Crane. He's graceful.
No, he's very fluid.
Oh, boy. The kick is good. So we have 2 minutes and 47 seconds left. The Vikings are leading the Eagles 35-23. Now, the Vikings won last week against San Diego because of an onside kick. With 2 minutes and 47 seconds, Hank, is it too early for anything like that?
No, you have to go for the onside kick, being behind like he is right now. They have to try the onside kick. You have to get the ball back, and you have to do something quickly to get back into this football game. It sounds like it's almost impossible, but it isn't. A lot of crazy things can happen.
35-23 Minnesota. 2 minutes and 47 seconds left. Interestingly enough, the Eagles got a touchdown in the first quarter. Since the first quarter, they had a field goal in the second quarter. They were blanked in the third quarter. And now with time running out, they scored twice to get back in the game. There are the numbers to tell you the story.
But really, it's 35-23, and it looks like a big lead. But here again, 2 big plays, and you're back in the contest, and you're on top.
Talking about big plays, Jaworski has passed for 261 yards. Kramer has passed for 257 yards. So it's an aerial circus, it figured. But, of course, Kramer is winning. Tony Franklin squirts it, and it's fielded by Tommy Hannon. And Hannon is dropped right at midfield, and the Vikings will keep the ball. There's number 45, Tommy Hannon at the bottom, and his bodyguard, number 54 or 59, Matt Blair. Blair is everywhere. You know what kind of a day Matt Blair has had today? Had 15 tackles. He's had 1 interception. He's had 1 fumble recovery. He has blocked 1 kick. Outside of that, he hasn't done anything.
He shouldn't be tired at all tonight, should he?
No. Hadn't done a thing. What were you saying about you used to address your team and call them imposters if they didn't bear down?
If we were playing poorly, yes. And at times we threatened them with the fact that we wouldn't pay them if they didn't play like they're supposed to play.
No imposter here. It's the real Matt Blair, and it's the real Ted Brown. Brown is stacked up, might have gotten a yard. You know, this game has been relatively free of penalties, which has added to the enjoyment of it. Good, solid football.
And I think it's a reflection on both coaches and their coaching staffs. They do an excellent job. Well-disciplined, well-poised football team that are well-drilled. And that's the reason for not having too many penalties here this afternoon.
2nd and 9 on the Eagle 48. Cleveland turned it around. So the blues of New Orleans continues. Cleveland 20, New Orleans 17. Ain't that a bummer?
Burmer was right about getting ready. I think he'd buy a new hat. One of those cowboy hats that he won that one.
2nd and 9 on the Eagle 48-yard line. 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the ball game. The second quarter is the key to this one. The second quarter was completely dominated by the Vikings. They scored 21 points, and the Eagles could only muster a field goal in the second quarter. Now, with 2:38 left, it's 35-23 Vikings. Next Sunday, Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. Philadelphia, no doubt, will be licking wounds waiting for Tampa Bay. Minnesota, with a record, evidently, if they win today, of 5-2, will be at St. Louis. St. Louis losing to Atlanta. The Giants will be at Atlanta next week. So the gathering storm, you know, they were talking about a 20% chance of snow flurries today.
And remember, it all starts with the NFL today, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Good for you. There's Bud Grant, the head coach of Minnesota, once drafted and a great receiver for the Eagles. And Tommy Kramer giving to Ted Brown, and he gets to the 45-yard line, but he has to get just across the 40 for a first down, so he still has a long way to go. What a day for Ted Brown. He had knee surgery at the end of the '79 season. You didn't hear too much about him last year, but what a day today for Brown. And we're down to 2:24. Two good ball clubs. Of course, the Eagles, it didn't figure, Hank, that any club is going to go through the season in the NFL undefeated. I mean, that's impossible.
Yeah, it's tough. With the competition as keen as it is and the balance as well distributed as it is, why, it's tough for one team to go all the way. And the Eagles have done a super job so far, and I'm amazed at what a great job the Minnesota Vikings have done. The last time I saw them play, they played the Oakland Raiders in a Monday night game, and they were just terrible. And to bounce back like they have is a great compliment to Bud Grant and his coaching staff. They've done a super job.
You know, the NFL's longest, most recent winning streak at the start of a season was in 1977. Dallas went 8-0 on the way to a 12-2 regular season. The longest winning streak in Eagles history was 9, set by the 1960 NFL championship team. But the Vikings have the ball. They have a 12-point lead, and there's only 2:24 left in the game. 3rd and 6 on the Eagle 45. Rashad right, White left. Kramer with Jerry Robinson on a blitz coming in from the blind side. So Jerry Robinson, number 56, applying the heat. Great athlete. A reminder now, Tampa Bay has a big game because they are going to start the field actually trailing Minnesota. Minnesota is going to go into the locker room 5-2. Tampa Bay is going to take the field at Oakland 4-2. The Giants will be at Seattle, and Washington will be at Miami following our game. So the Vikings will have to feel very happy about the turn of events, and for the Eagles, I guess to be realistic, they figured sooner or later there had to be one of these days, and we've gotten down to the 2-minute warning. So with 2 minutes left in the game, the Minnesota Vikings 35 and the Philadelphia Eagles 23. We'll be back with more right after this. Falcons are eating the Cardinals 41-20 in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, Greg Coleman standing on the Viking 35-yard line. Wally Henry standing on the Eagle 10. 2 minutes left. 35-23 Vikings. Coleman trying to angle the ball to the sidelines. Henry trying to cut it off at the pass and can't handle it. And there's the one that Coleman wanted. Greg a couple of times trying to unload in the sidelines, got it once, a couple of times kicked into the end zone, and that time he put it out of bounds at the 11-yard line. So the Eagles, a long way to go, 89 yards, trailing by 12, and they have 1:58 left in the game. So Jaworski, 24 for 37, 283 yards, but he's thrown 2 interceptions. Over the middle, he's got Carmichael, and so does Studwell. So Studwell hit him first, and then to make sure Carmichael didn't try and move, Seaman came over to keep him down. So that moves the ball from the 11 out to the 17, a pickup of 6 yards. 2nd and 4. And the pass to Montgomery, and Blair wraps Montgomery up just about enough for a first down. And look who is out on the scoreboard. Hank, Oakland finally did it. 3-0 leading Tampa Bay. Boy, that must be painful. for Tom Flores. Oh,
Yes, and of course they made a lot of changes, I understand, going into the game today. Young Mark Wilson was supposed to start at the quarterback position, and they made some other changes. So we'll be interested to see what happens after this contest is over with.
so they picked up the first down on the Eagle 23. We have 1:22 left in the game as Vermeil talks to Jaworski. 35-23 in favor of Minnesota. The gathering storm. Just to update you, San Diego, Baltimore. Baltimore has picked up 7, but it's 30-14 San Diego in the third quarter. And the Giants have scored in the great indoors of Seattle. 3-0 New York in the first quarter. One minute and 22 seconds left. It would appear to be a hopeless cause. The Eagles down by 12. There's Ron's numbers. He has 295 and Kramer had 257. 2 touchdowns for Jaworski, 4 touchdowns for Kramer. And of course Kramer has not tossed an interception. Jaworski has 2.
Yes, but we've really seen 2 of the finest quarterbacks in the National Football League here this afternoon.
Minnesota with all the cards, including the timeouts remaining. Jaworski over the middle. He's got Montgomery, and Montgomery is stacked up at the 35-yard line. That's enough for a first down, but of course the first down is not a payoff window. You can go busted counting first downs. It's 35-23 Vikes.
Yeah, especially when you only have a minute left in the game and you're behind 35-23.
First and 10 from the 35. Jaworski, no good. John Turner just missed it. Tommy Hannon just missed it. We can duck in another score. Kansas City leading Denver 7-0 in the first quarter. And we have 58 seconds left in our game. Particular thanks today to our statistician, Dr. Bob Woods. It has been an interesting numbers day indeed, especially for somebody like Ted Brown. 10 passes for 82 yards, 22 carries, and a touchdown, 92 yards. A bow to our spotter, Ron Cadwell, and to all the other folks who have made this quite a story in Minnesota. The end of the Eagles' undefeated string. Wilbert Montgomery. He'll be pushed out by Matt Blair at the 46-yard line of Philadelphia. A particular thanks to our producer, executive producer, Terry O'Neill. Our senior producer, Charles H. Milton. I thought he was an admiral, I, but they tell me that's 3. Produced by Robert Stenner. Directed by Robert Fishman. And to all the other fellas who've been out here so early this morning, nice job, guys. Congratulations. First and 10 on the Eagle 46. Jaworski to Carmichael, and down he goes at about the 43. The first man to hit him was Dennis Johnson, and then as usual McNeil and Blair, who are always around the ball.
Makes you feel good to watch this team play. They know they're behind. They don't have much of a chance to win with only 27 seconds, but they're playing like they still got a chance, and that's what's really important.
Yeah, that's so true. They're not going through the motions. I guess among other things, professional pride makes you keep going.
That's exactly right.
What's the worst game you ever coached in the pros? What was the most one-sided game you're ever involved in? Do you remember?
Oh, I can't remember. I think one year we played Buffalo and got down at halftime like 28-0. It looked like they bombed us right off the bat.
Defense encroachment. First down.
On encroachment, the Eagles pick up a first down. The ball at the 38-yard line of Minnesota. Oakland has added a safety, so field goal and safety after all those desperate hours, and they're leading 5-0. First and 5 on the 38. And Jaworski is going to run. No, then he's going to throw. And down in the corner, he overshot Charlie Smith with 21 seconds left. That happens a lot, doesn't it? When you're on the run, you have a tendency to throw high.
Yes, that was a little high, but it looked like really that Charlie Smith had a chance to make the catch. He should have made the catch.
21 seconds left. We'll take another look, Hank.
Yeah, there you see him on the outside, running straight down the sideline with Carmichael on the inside. He breaks to the outside, and let's see where that ball is. Yeah, it's a little bit too high. He would have taken him right out of bounds.
2nd and 5 with 21 seconds left. 35-23 Minnesota. Most of you folks looking at our ball game will see the Tampa Bay Oakland game, so stay right with us. Jaworski cranking up. Goes over the middle to Wilbert Montgomery, and Minnesota jams him up at about the 21-yard line. And with 10 seconds left, Montgomery and Dennis Johnson have a few words. Dennis, a 2-year man out of USC, and Montgomery felt that with 10 seconds left, it was an unnecessary hit. Jaworski goes down underneath Randy Holloway, and the time has run out, or has it? It shows 2 seconds left on the clock. So the Eagles were 6-0, but they will lose today, and the Vikings will go into their clubhouse 5-2, and now it is official. Now for Hank Stram, this has been Scully saying so long from Metropolitan Stadium, where once again the final score was Minnesota 35, Philadelphia 23. Stay tuned for the second half of today's doubleheader. Most of you will see Tampa Bay at Oakland, Washington at Miami, New York at Seattle. CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League will continue after this word from your local station.